And looks like we're off. First thing that happens in the game, if you haven't played the vanilla game in a while, of course, we're going to get our telepathic message from Zelda in the castle. Going to take just a little bit of button mashing to get through that. We don't have a whole lot of things we can do to make ourselves faster early in the run. We don't have those boots yet. So what we're going to do is try to do everything as cleanly as possible. First thing you're going to notice is that when we go through these doors, and anytime we have to, go past an object, we want to do as little nudging as possible. Every time that Link has to try and walk past something and kind of slides around the corner of it, that's actually going to waste frames. Now, it's not going to be a gigantic time loss, in any one particular room or one area, but over the course of a run, which is about an hour and a half or so, adds up very quickly. Yeah, Hiei and Chad rightly pointing out that you usually want to be out of the house in the beginning in about 27 seconds or so, but that just depends on how well you mash buttons. Another thing you'll notice too, you don't have an input display on any of these runners' screens right now, but if you had one, you'd see that they usually like to press L or R or other unused buttons whenever they're clearing out the last text box in a sequence, because that one can be cleared by any face button whatsoever. Coming into the castle, we have a little bit of RNG to deal with. These guards can, well, they spawn all in the same position every time. The direction that they move is random. Yeah, folks, obviously it's a little weird going from randomizer to NMG. That's a bit of a difference after you just watched the hilarity that was Grand Pooh Bear and Feeny. By the way, fantastic race by both of you guys. That was a privilege to watch. But so we're going to see a lot of the vanilla strategies, the things that you would do when you have less equipment, things you would do when you're just trying to get through these rooms as fast as humanly possible. One thing you'll notice actually is the blue guard that they took the key from just there. They tried to kill him as close to the door as possible so that they would get the key and walk through the door at the same time. Yeah, so we have some questions in chat about what the difference is between no major glitches and any percent, which allows for major glitches. The big thing is we don't want to really have any glitches that skip content in the game. I mean, you can do something that'll make it faster, like, for example, fake flippers will get you to the top of the mountain about 6 to 8 seconds quicker than going around the castle. But you can't clip into walls and, skip dungeons, skip items that are absolutely required. And there's a longer rule list available in our... I see Helbasaur King, links going everywhere, so that's kind of why we, differentiate. The any percent category is much less, it's very short. It's like a couple minutes long. But here in the ball and chain guard room, we're going to see a couple different ways that our runners deal with this guard. It takes 8 sword slashes, but you can also throw 2 pots or throw 1 and slash 4 times. Lyra doing an unusual strategy we don't see too often, which is just sword spins. Very valid. It's a little slower, but not a problem. It's important not to die here. That's a costly death. Also, we did see a link to from Helbasaur King about how to explain what pumping is. It's just a small minor movement technique that we do to try to optimize Link's walking animation. Now, there is a part of that that's worth explaining, though. Link's walking animation starts on either 2 or 1 pixels per frame. It alternates between 2 and 1 if you're moving in cardinal directions. So you can actually use that to your advantage in a couple of places. You see the bomb jump in Palace of Darkness, for example. If you want to line yourself up on a perfect pixel, it helps to know that going down or right will always start on 1 pixel per frame, and going left and up will only start on 2. Oh yes, and Chad, a little confused about the fact that we don't get that lamp in Link's house. The game really doesn't want you to miss it, so there are several chests you can pick it up from. It's one of the only items in the game that's like this, so we definitely have to have it. This is a fun fact. The room that SNES Chalmers is walking into right now, you actually can't even push that mantle without having the lamp in your inventory. SNES Chalmers doing pretty well to get to this point. Sub 440, that's definitely a fast time to get into the back half here. Lyra, a little closer to the time I probably would manage, around 5 minutes or so getting into the back. SNES Chalmers actually walked right past a heart container that he could have picked up, or a heart refill. There's a safety one you can get there. He might be trying to save about half a second when he gets to the sanctuary during that cutscene, because you actually don't, for whatever reason, actually there's a technical explanation I don't know, but it saves about half a second if you have 1 heart or less. So we're looking through the snake room that Lyra just went through. The ideal RNG there is that they don't move in your way. Had very good RNG to get through there. SNES Chalmers getting the key rat walking right towards him there in that room. That's an important instance of RNG because it's critical that you don't, have to go up to the top left corner and waste a few extra seconds there. A room that can easily go wrong. While our runners are hoping to leave the escape within about 6 minutes or so, you see SNES Chalmers skip a text box by holding right going into that room. Zelda tells us to pull the switch, but apparently we're so fast that Zelda never has the chance. But SNES Chalmers getting a 6-minute escape, very nicely done. Fun little bit of button mashing here. That L and R or D-pad buttons to clear the last one would be useful in this situation. This is one instance where our runners may potentially do different things. If SNES Chalmers was feeling very bold, he might skip this Sanctuary Heart, saving about 3 seconds, but unless you're in like the top 20 of this leaderboard, there's really no reason to do that. It's pretty dangerous. Moving on, though, we have a bunch of screens where we're kind of just walking, so at this point we don't want to not get, hit by that guard. We walk high up in the screen for that reason. We're going to also take advantage of some weird quirks about Link's movement. Normally when you walk diagonally, he moves 1 pixel per frame, but changing your direction can actually waste frames, so we just hold diagonal across that bridge for that reason. A little more RNG here with the Octoroks. None of them getting his way, but SNES Chalmers does take a hit. That's bad RNG, but at least he didn't waste time. Lyra's falling around not too far behind, leaving the Sanctuary, taking kind of a weird route out of the Sanctuary, but not going to be too much of an issue. Just going to have to dodge his guard here. Going to boomerang instead. That's actually smart. So SNES Chalmers here is going to, well, he's supposed to boomerang that Armos Knight. That's going to reduce lag, but no problems here. He's going to pump here on the staircase, so he's walking up, and he's going to alternate left and right on the D-pad. This maximizes how much time Link spends walking 2 pixels per frame, allowing him to actually walk around that blue guard without having to boomerang him. Very nicely done. And Lyra doing something really interesting, going to the Chris Houlihan room. That may explain why we went to the, why we took the strange route we did out of Sanctuary. This is something you don't see very often. So just to kind of explain what the Chris Houlihan room is, back in the 90s, Nintendo Power actually did a promotion for one person to get their name entered into the game, and the person who won it was Chris Houlihan, some guy here in America. And basically the room that they used for it is the error exception handling room. Whenever the game doesn't know where to put Link through a screen transition, it just sends him to that room. Like whenever you fall down a hole or enter a door with... And the way that we trigger it is we jump into the water and we mess up the camera enough where the game doesn't really understand what Link's X and Y coordinate pixels are. Or not pixels, but his coordinates are. And so then it puts him in there. Now, the reason Lyra would have done that, though, is to get the rupees so that we can afford to buy an extra bottle in Kakariko. I'm almost certain that's the reason that we got them there. It also allows us to skip a few extra rupees later on that we would normally get from some of the Dark World, Village of Outcast locations. All right, well, that was a long explanation. We're already in Eastern Palace. SNES Chalmers has already done quite a few things, but he's about to do a damage boost skip here in the next room to get the big key. This is a really interesting skip. We're going to bump into a Popo, get invincibility frames. Using those invincibility frames, we can pick up this pot underneath the anti-fairies and trigger the switch when they expire, getting us a big key very fast. Don't have to kill all the enemies in the room, so that's a huge time save. Only costs a heart and a half. Yeah, Chad is rightly pointing out that you would normally never see the Houlihan room in normal gameplay. But it's not too hard to trigger. There's several different ways to get it. I recommend checking out the wiki online for that one. Lyra's going into an interesting room, though. There's normally 4 Stalfos that spawn in here, based on where Link is in the room when you cross the trigger. We only have 2 of them spawn, because based on the position we were in when we threw that first pot, one of them spawns underneath the pot, and the other outside of the room. The other 2 we just kill very quickly by throwing those pots, so that's an easy way to get through that room. Both of our runners executed perfectly. Yeah, Scrivo, Lyra decided to take Houlihan rupees, which I have never seen in a run, which is very interesting. But then again, we might be looking to get a bottle in Kakariko. I think that's why. In the meantime, though, SNES Chalmers doing all right through the Zelda Gamer Room, going to hopefully get a really nice quick kill here on Armos Knights. So far doing very well in Eastern, and has plenty of arrows to work with, too. Looks like both of our runners picked up safety arrows. So now at this point, we're going to pump 5 arrows into the top right here, and just mash arrows going on the left side. This is great for a fast kill on Armos. He's a little far away from them, but certainly a good kill. It looks like Lyra's going to take the vanilla strategy here in the big key room. We're just going to try to throw some pots, kill some enemies. The Stalfos are the most annoying part of this room, actually, because they tend to jump away from you. But a good sword spin will get that done. So SNES Chalmers leaving Eastern Palace sword up at about 11:07. Pretty good split overall. I'm not sure exactly what her splits are. I'm going to check that real quick, actually. Chad asking about what the world record is. Parisian player just put it up, but that was by Zelda, actually, a year ago. Alright, well, I don't see splits on Chalmers' stream, so I'm going to have to guess that he's doing okay so far. You'll notice that he talks to Sahasrahla to pick up his boots from below him. That's actually relevant because he didn't actually pick up the rupees behind him. We're going to pull some trees later, but we also got to see a spin speed. That was so fast I didn't even get a chance to explain it. But now that we have the boots, our movement speed, instead of being about 1.5 pixels per frame, is now going to be 4 pixels per frame whenever we're dashing. So we're going to prefer this in almost every instance. However, we will sometimes not do that if walking is going to get us there a little faster, since dashing does take a brief moment to charge up. Here's another example of the spin speed here on Chalmers' screen. So if we release a sword spin and then hit the A button on the very next frame, the game gets very confused about what exactly Link's movement speed should be. Part of the reason why is because, you interrupted the dash and the spin animation between, right 1 frame apart from each other. And so once you touch a manual staircase like the one in front of this library, when you're in that state, it'll actually give you running speed using Link's walking animation. You don't have to charge up a dash. You have to have enough space for it to be worth it, but there are actually some very small time saves that we'll see, possibly even in Desert, the next dungeon, where it's just more for swag than anything. Very hard to do. But as far as the regular spin speed goes, not too difficult overall. SNES Chalmers getting a really nice water dash there. That's a very specific lineup where you don't actually get slowed down by walking through water. Dashing or walking through water is considerably slower compared to everything else. Looks like Lyra's doing the Armos Knights fight. May have messed up the setup for the quick kill. So we're going to default to some regular reactionary strategies here. One thing that's difficult about getting to this point in the Armos fight is that the pattern is not really friendly to get a fast kill on because you don't have any of the kind of setup you had before. And then, of course, once you've taken down the last one, or the 5th one, the last one will enrage, which will re-heal it, actually, so you have to pump in 3 arrows after the fact, even if you already did damage. Well, depending on how we want to look at this route at this point, because Lyra has made some decisions that are time costly up front, but will save time later. I would argue a bit slower overall compared to the regular route. Picking up those blue rupees is pretty time intensive, but approximately 3 minutes behind SNES Chalmers at this point. You also notice that Lyra is talking to Sahasrahla a little bit higher up in the screen, might be going for the bombs in the back of Sahasrahla's head. Ooh, SNES Chalmers getting really good cannonball RNG. He's going to walk right through that room with no problems. Very nice heads-up play there by Chalmers to pick up the arrow drop in Desert. You want to have as many arrows as possible when you go to the Lamb-Molus fight. It takes at least 12 to kill them if you hit every shot, which very few people will. And then any more that you have is just going to be useful for later, particularly Palace of Darkness. With that, though, Lyra does have the fast shoes, so we're going to make our way to the library to go pick up that book, and then the desert. SNES Chalmers, in the meantime, has finished up the first half of Desert Palace, is going to make the way to the back half to go take on some Sandy Worms, or if you're a fan of Beetlejuice, maybe one of those, or maybe Dune. There's a lot of similarity here to many other franchises. We're going to see a key dash, hopefully, on SNES Chalmers' screen here. Picking up the key, and if you're lined up within any increment of 4 pixels from the door when you dash, or when you start your dash, you will actually open the door and dash through it on the same frame, because Link's collision detection only takes place once every 4 frames. This is also handy because if you nudge into an object on your way to the door, usually most of those objects are also lined up on a coordinate grid 4 pixels away from the door, kind of like tiles, and you can use that to get free key dashes even if you don't have a good setup. Kind of the best person in chat asking about where the flute is normally. We're going to get it later on in the run, actually, after we finish Palace of Darkness. But it's in the grove where the Pinocchio-style flute boy is. Alright, so SNES Chalmers had a really good first phase of this. The spawn position of these Lamb-Molus is going to be constant every time. However, the direction and their flight path is going to be very random, so in this fight, we want to see 3, maybe 4 cycles, but anything beyond that is just bane of every runner's existence. This fight is extremely RNG. Now, the best way to take advantage of the RNG, or the best way to take advantage of, their flight path, is to be as close as possible when you shoot the bow. And this is applicable tech for even the randomizer as well. You can't have more than 1 arrow on screen at a time. So SNES Chalmers there, I believe that was a 6 cycle. I'm doing pretty well to wrap it up, though. And it has a pretty good split time right now, 17:45-ish. That's pretty good. Also, next up, we're going to see a really cool glitch called Fake Flippers. You probably know this if you play the randomizer or have ever watched NMG runs before. I'm pretty sure SNES Chalmers will do that here. In the meantime, also of note, Lyra did pick up the bottle and bug net before going to Desert, which is a very safe way to handle Desert. You start with 5 hearts, at this point, so you want to be wise to grab that. Also has a second bottle, so that's going to be really handy. Gonna pick that up on the way to Desert now. Chalmers, in the meantime, though, is going to use a bush that he's about to dash towards to line himself up. He's going to walk diagonally up to the corner and jump into the water and then screen transition the next frame. When you jump into the water, the game gives you just a moment to put an input in, and you can actually get to the next screen doing that. By doing that, you can actually bypass the check the game has to see if you have flippers. And because of that, you're able to swim when you're not supposed to normally. However, if you do get hit while you're in that state, the game soft locks, so it's very dangerous. In this tournament, we do allow our runners to save and quit in that situation, because normally this category doesn't allow you to, but it's very dangerous for a tournament setting. So that's the one situation where you're allowed to. In the elimination bracket, you would actually have to return to that bush if you do fake flipper and soft lock. But with that, Lyra has made her way to Desert Palace, and SNES Chalmers is about to return the old man to his listening post. Since World War II, he's been there. He gives you the mirror as well, because he hates looking at his own face. But in the meantime, that's going to help us tremendously in the next major dungeon we do, Palace of Darkness. Or as I like to call it, Palace of Mirrors. But in the meantime, we're going to do a spin speed here on the ladder to hopefully get around all these flying cabbages and squirrels. They're relentless. and make our way up to the top of the Tower of Hera. You're also going to see here when Chalmers goes to this portal, hopefully going to try entering it from the right side using a pause buffer to do it perfectly. You'll notice his warp animation's a little faster. It's called a quick warp. Actually, I think he might have been a little too far left on that one. But you can also do it with a mirror. How this works is you actually need to position the game's camera so that there's less things on screen. There's like a certain, I think it's 2 out of every 8 pixels that you can stand on will be a quick warp. But it saves you about half a second every time you transfer between the worlds if you know where it's supposed to be. I think in SNES Chalmers' situation, I think just the super speed that he had from the ladder, or the spin speed, just carried him a little too far left on that quick warp, so that's unfortunate, but we'll have plenty of other opportunities throughout the rest of the run. In the meantime, Lyra is making her way through Desert Palace, has handled the cannonball room perfectly fine. SNES Chalmers here just killing some tiles, killing some time. Could have possibly have done a boom dash using, well, we didn't explain item dashes. So you can actually use an item on the same frame that you dash, and the item will stay active throughout the entire dash. Sometimes we'll use this to get the super speed glitch activated. Other times we'll do it for swag, like SNES Chalmers could have done in this room by throwing a boomerang down and then dashing up to the peg to be standing on top of it when the switch is hit, which will give him invincibility frames. But that's like a 3 perfect input trick, so not surprised to see anybody not do it, particularly in a race. In the meantime, though, he's going to make his way back up to the top of Tower of Hera. Now, Lyra has picked up the power glove, so has handled everything in the front half that we need to do. With that, we'll make our attack on the Sandy Worm, but we have a Moldy Worm to take care of here in Tower of Hera. SNES Chalmers has an opportunity to do a bomb jump coming up next. This will be really exciting to see. So this bomb jump is in a room we like to call the petting zoo. I'm sure if you have a creative imagination, you can see why. But so there's 2 different ways to do this bomb jump. Let's see the way that SNES Chalmers does it here. He's going to opt to try to line himself up on the edge and then get a dash against the wall to bonk himself basically over. When you do that, you have a wider range that you can actually, do the bomb jump from. You don't have to be as close to the edge. When you dash bonk, you have 6 pixels available to you. If you don't and you just stand still, it's a 2-pixel window. So most people will do a dash bonk, although there are plenty of other really cool looking strategies. A fellow runner and commentator of mine, Giselle Schaff, showed me recently you can actually throw a bomb against the wall and line it up that way. But that's for another day, though. SNES Chalmers here in the Moldorm fight. We have to do 6 hits to the tail in order to take him down. Most people will opt to dash through him, try to avoid him. He can knock you off very easily, and Chalmers getting really close there. The important thing is that we don't fall through the middle hole, which will drop us down 2 floors instead of 1 like on the outside. And SNES Chalmers, even through the enraged phase, absolutely killing it. Very good fight. Lyra, in the meantime, is going to take on Lam Molus. So we're seeing some more conventional sword strats out of Lyra. It's a safer kind of way to handle the fight. You'll notice that the rocks will fly in diagonal directions from where they jump out of the ground. So while this is considerably slower to do, it is also a lot more predictable. Arrows being very hard to nail every single time. Like, the arrows, you got to be pretty much spot on. And it's a bit of a crapshoot anyway, because you don't really know what's going to happen with the flight path or the length of the flight. So absolutely no problems doing it this way. If this is the fight that gives you the most trouble, and for many runners it actually is, because of how low equipment we have at this point, then I definitely recommend, whatever's going to get you through the fight without dying. And with that, Lyra does finish up the fight, so I think there was only like 8 or 9 cycles, and for what it was with sword, that's pretty good. You see Chalmers on his screen picking up the tree pole, so to explain how that works. In Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, money does grow on trees, gems actually. So when you kill an enemy and pull on the tree, you're going to get green rupees from it. That's a tier 1 pull. If you kill 4 enemies and take damage, you'll get 4 blue rupees. And if you kill 4 enemies without taking damage, you get 4 red rupees. We need 110 rubies to get into the Palace of Darkness after we finish off Aghanim here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that first tree pull. We're going to kill 3 enemies on the way to the Master Sword. And then once we have the Master Sword, we have sword beams, which means that we can pew-pew laser sword the last one from a distance and pull the tree for all the rubies we're going to need for Kiki, the extortionist monkey. We say extortionist because that furry little friend will just run away if you take any damage, so that's actually one thing our runners have to be careful of. Although SNES Chalmers does have 6 rubies he's going to pick up in the Hyrule Castle, and doesn't have to worry too much about his ruby count here. He just does need to be very careful not to take any damage on the way to the tree here. Question in chat about, what's causing Lyra to be behind. It's a combination of execution and routing. Lyra has chosen to pick up some extra safeties, 2 bottles, a bug net. These are all very valid decisions. Taking a death at any point in this game is almost always going to be more costly than the safeties you pick up. So for most runners out there, I mean, there's no reason to worry, about picking up safeties. You're going to save more time just not dying. We also saw Lyra take a left path instead of the fake flippers, because the fake flippers is a very volatile glitch, something that can absolutely end your run. So not surprised to see that. That's a safe way to go. Highly recommend doing that if you're not familiar or comfortable with fake flippers. In the meantime, though, SNES Chalmers will head up to the castle tower, get a nice fence dash there. 1 for 1 so far on that. We're hoping we'll get a nice one later in Village of Outcasts. But SNES Chalmers will do the very interesting to watch Hyrule Castle segment. While he's doing that, though, we have an old man to return to his listening post. And then we'll have the mirror and Tower of Hair to deal with. Crossing our fingers that we don't have too much trouble with all of the falls there. I may have just cursed Lyra, though. In the meantime, though, we're going to see an interesting room here with these gold guards. SNES Chalmers is going to do a spin slash, shoot 2 bow and arrow, sword beam, and a double spin slash kill those guards. The alternative strategy is to wait for them to get close to you and do 2 spin slashes. You also notice he doesn't slash those last guards, those blue guards in the room with the key. That's a very interesting manipulation we're going to do for about 45 minutes from now. One thing to kind of explain about this game is that enemies have a certain percentage chance of dropping items, and the items that they drop are within a certain pool. We call them prize packs. So a prize pack has, for most enemies, a 50% chance of giving you an item, and it goes through a cycle of those items. So I'm going to post a quick link in chat from Helpasaur King, yeah, that's the bot, which has a graphical representation of prize packs. And so how it works is those blue guards in that room, if you dash through them, they will never give you a drop. So if you're doing a regular sword dash, you will never get drops. That's a good thing to keep in mind. If you want to get a drop, never dash. So we didn't want to see a drop there for a reason, though. The prize pack they belong to, the first item is a heart drop, just a regular heart refill, and the second one's a fairy, and that's really critical for later as a safety. They share a prize pack with little Helmasaur enemies, the ones with the green, like hard hat helmets, kind of like Helmasaur King himself, as well as Pokies, which we're going to see in Turtle Rock. If everything goes right, we're going to get a fairy right before the Chomp Room, which would be a fantastic place to get it, because that's one of the most dangerous rooms in the game. Monkey Cheese in chat asking about why save and quit is prohibited in this category. It's just a difference in category. There is a save and quit version of this category. It's just not as popular. So that's the reason why this tournament's based on this. It's very similar. There's, a certain number of situations where you can save time by saving and quitting. But this is considered kind of a more difficult category, I would suppose, to run, or at least a more complete speed run. It's not something that, you can absolutely do the save and quit category if you like. Parisian player in chat with a really great explanation. We want to show as much of this game as possible. Alrighty, folks, we have the Aghanim fight, one of the most RNG fights of the game after Lammolis himself. We have a 5-attack cycle. That first attack you just saw was a reflective attack guaranteed every time. 2, 3, and 4 in the cycle are a 50-50 chance of a reflective attack, or that last one you saw, a blue ball attack, which wastes time. We don't want to see those. On average, most fights give you about 3. We have to hit Aghanim 6 times, so the best we can do is 0. The worst we can do is 15, and SNES Chalmers has just got 3 in a row. That's the worst luck for the first cycle. 5th attack is a lightning attack. We cannot do anything with that, so we just have to dodge. All right, well, let's find out if we're going to get the 15. All right, we're not going to get 15 today. But with 3 blue balls so far, he's hoping not to see a single other one, because if he gets any more, he's going to get an extra attack cycle of that lightning. So that is 4. He's going to have to wait through yet another round. Oh, possibly another one, actually. I miscounted. But so that's 4 so far, and then we're going to see from Lyra's screen whether or not we're going to do the bomb jump. Based on what I've seen so far, I think Lyra's probably going to go the vanilla way, but then again, not going to speak for, you know, the runner. Maybe they'll pull something different than I expect. Ah, yes, the coveted compass check. It's very easy in this game, particularly in the speed run, to accidentally open chests you don't realize are not like pickups that you want. So like, may have been looking for extra arrows or health, any number of things in that chest. But easy thing to forget. I've definitely been there myself. Well, SNES Chalmers will walk into the Dark World just over 30 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a pretty decent time to be entering the Dark World. Always wanted to see that sub 30, but not a problem at all. A very good Light World overall. So you'll notice he has 116 rupees. As long as we don't have a mishap with Kiki, we should have no problems getting into the Palace of Darkness. You'll also notice Lyra did take the safety switch to get an extra heart here going into Moldorm. Good safety strategy. We'll see if we can pull off this Moldorm without any falls, and I'm cross my fingers. I really hope so. Ooh, Moldorm absolutely rejecting his advance. She's got to be careful here, Lyra. Just, I mean, probably best to do those sword spins. I like the way that we're doing that. We have a question in chat about the potion glitch being allowed in pod. Well, there's no reason you would ever go to that section of Palace of Darkness in a speedrun anyway. So, actually, I don't believe the camera manipulation glitch is allowed, but it's not useful. Like, I mean, we wouldn't do it anyway. Ooh, Lyra getting really close in the rage phase. Pulling it off, though. Very nicely done. You may notice that there's a point there where we almost fell off the ledge, but by holding the sword out against the direction that we would be falling down in, you can actually prevent yourself from falling off that ledge. So Lyra did a really good job there. Like to call that a clutch save. Well, in the meantime, we have SNES Chalmers in Palace of Darkness. Lyra's got to go grab the Master Sword. Oh, by the way, yeah, holding your sword out, that can be used anywhere in the game. So there are a lot of setups we'll use for bomb jumps and other scenarios where we have to be as close to the ledge as possible. That's a great way to do it. So another example, you're playing that randomizer. That's definitely a great thing to know. As far as movement tech goes, NMG has really expanded our knowledge base on this. So SNES Chalmers just picking up a bunch of keys, getting the big key next. Meanwhile, Lyra's got to get through Lost Woods. Doesn't have to worry about trying to, kill any enemies in here. We'll just kill the ones that are in our way. Hopefully I didn't hit the pickle, thankfully. But at this point, now that SNES Chalmers has picked up his big key, we're going to mirror out yet again. We need to do a bomb jump, and we're going to see a very nice bomb jump, hopefully. SNES Chalmers having a pretty fast time in this game. I have to imagine he pulls this off pretty regularly. It'll be interesting to see how many pause buffers he uses, though. So how this bomb jump works is we have to put Link and a bomb on 2 separate perfect y-axis coordinate pixels on the collapsing bridge and line ourselves up in time to bomb across and clip into a rail and then get the big key chest. We're going to see it here on the right now. Now we have to switch from mirror to bomb, so we get 1 pause buffer to help line ourselves up. We're going to throw another bomb over at the same time, and then switch back to the mirror to get a pause buffer to get back in. SNES Chalmers doing with no extra pause buffers, only with the free ones available to him. That's as perfect as that gets. And we also grab another small key from the back of that dark maze, rather than going down the bridge. With that, we're clear to do everything, or we've cleared everything we need to do for the Helmasaur King fight, so he's going to make his way to the basement. Having only been 1 heart down at this point from the bomb jump, also in a great position to hold on to sword beams, which is a nice thing that can help save a couple menus in the next section. You also see Lyra here is Picking up a mushroom, that's a great safety. I think you already got the powder though, so yeah, that's probably accidental actually. So you can also pick up that mushroom twice. You don't want to, but we're gonna see a nice mimics room, hopefully. Yep, having no problems getting the arrows in, and he only has one arrow left, so he's gonna pick up this arrow drop here underneath the pot. We don't have to have arrows right this moment, besides this one here. But it's good to have backups. You really don't want to run out at any point in this run. Well, Lyra is about to make the approach to Aghanim, opting for the safe defense dash. Very nicely done. Nest Chalmers here is going to switch to Hammer, and because we have sword beams here, we don't have to do anything to hit this switch here. We're just going to use some sword beams to cut across that. Now the turtles here are going to be very interesting. The first one here, no big deal. We're just going to hit him and then dash down. But the turtle room itself is very dangerous because these turtles do not flip easily, and they often flip themselves back upside down or back onto their feet when you hit another one. So it looks like we did take a heart of damage in that section, but only one. Now, any damage you take there is rough because Helmosaur King does 2 hearts of damage with every attack. The fireball, giving you a hug, hitting him with his tail. We have an even number of, hearts at this point, so we're at risk. There's one less hit we can take. Lyra there did show us a spin strategy for those gold guards I talked about earlier. But so for Helmosaur King, we're going to do 17 sword hits to the face. That's going to piss him off and wake him up from his beauty sleep now that he has his mask off his face. We're going to need the equivalent of 8 sword slashes after that. Ooh, we saw something nice on Chalmers' screen as well. You can despawn the fireball as it leaves Helmosaur King's mouth. Wow, he's already done with it. Great fight. But so if you wait a second to do that last mask hit, you can despawn the fireball when you destroy it. But yeah, so that went about as well as Chalmers could have hoped for. The fireball is not good RNG, but getting it right around your 17th hit is good luck. So that's about as good of a fight as you could hope for. In the meantime, Lyra is going to navigate some more Hyrule Castle here. Going through these rooms pretty cautiously, seems to want to maintain her health as much as possible. It's a wise decision. I mean, here in Hyrule Castle Tower, this is almost like a mini gauntlet, kind of like Ganon's Tower is. We get several sections of really intense combat, really intense movement, difficult to avoid getting hurt. And depending on how you feel about deflecting the attacks that Aghanim gives you, you may want to have as much health and sword beams as possible. Having sword beams in general, really great for 1, alerting enemies when you want to, and 2, for getting things from range. Alright, well, we're done with Battles of Darkness. It's time to go get that coveted flute that we were talking about before. We're going to get a really nice item dash in just another minute or so from Chalmers as we cross that bridge that has those hammer pegs. When you use an item and dash at the same time, you can usually keep the item active for the entire duration of the dash. What the item is depends, the item that you have equipped determines what the effect is like. So for the hammer dash, you're just going to continue to do it, and at the end of the dash, you'll do the actual smack with the hammer. If you did it with a bow, you would dash with the bow pulled, but it wouldn't shoot the arrow until you stopped the dash. Yeah, chat discussing what kind of damage is done by sword beams. That's also very relevant because as we get more and more sword upgrades, whether that's tempered or if Lyra decides to pick up gold sword, you're not going to have any damage boost to those sword beams whatsoever. So great for creating distance and separation, not so great for killing enemies. Ken in chat asking about what's in the quote-unquote hype cave, the one that's south of Link's house in the Light World. Or if you might be talking about the mini Moldorm cave, or you could be talking about the one in the Dark World. I think you're talking about the one in the Dark World, but that's, yeah, there's 300 rupees as Zelda's TV is saying in chat, and then, yeah, the 20 rupees in each chest. I appreciate that you know that answer, because I was just going to guess rupees, but that is the actual answer. Alright, well, I actually got a little distracted there. I only saw one blue ball so far from Lyra, so I think we're getting good luck so far. One thing you'll notice from SNES Chalmers here is we activated the flute from the left side of the statue because we're not going to go to pick up powder at this point. Some very clean movement to get through that section going into the Lost Woods. Lyra here has had at least a second blue ball. I believe that was a 2 blue ball fight, so Lyra getting really good RNG, but is about 10 minutes behind SNES Chalmers at this point. With that, though, Lyra is in good position to go to Palace of Darkness, has fairy backups to work with, so shouldn't have too much trouble with getting through that section. Having 2 of them is a really safe place to be. In the meantime, SNES Chalmers will be taking on Thieves Town. Now, this is the part where if you played this game vanilla growing up, you might be wondering, why in the world are we going to Thieves Town when the next crystal in the dungeon order is supposed to be Swamp Palace? It even says so in the crystal. Crystal 2, Crystal 4. That's a great question, and I'm going to answer for you. We are going to become overpowered way too quick. We have read up on the guides online. We know all of the little secrets. It turns out Nintendo gave you the freedom to go to Thieves Town and Village of Outcasts as soon as you leave Palace of Darkness. In the Dark World, Palace of Darkness is the first dungeon you can do and the only dungeon you can do right away without, doing some major glitches. So with Thieves Town accessible to us, we're going to get the Titan's Myths early, and this allows us to go talk to the blacksmith early and get a tempered sword far sooner than we should. And that'll actually make the Swamp Palace kind of a joke later on when we go to it. But as far as the dungeon order goes for SNES Chalmers here, I know he's probably going to skip the gold sword. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but it's pretty likely. He will likely go to Dungeon 4. Well, he'll do Dungeon 1, Dungeon 4, which is Thieves Town, Dungeon 3, which is Skull Woods. Then we'll do a Dungeon 5, which is Ice Palace. We'll go back to Swamp Palace, and then do Misery Mire. Now, Lyra may actually do something different, though. Might end up opting to go to Misery Mire before Swamp so that you can go to the Pyramid immediately after to get the Gold Sword and Silver Arrows. Also, there was some discussion in chat about how the tournament format works. We're in the group phase right now, so everybody was seeded based on their PB entering the tournament. For example, they were basically put into buckets. So the top 25% of the tournament was a first seed in their group. The next 25% was the second seed, and so on and so forth. So great way to kind of explain that. Lyra has a personal best over 2 hours. I had one just under 2 hours. We're both 4th seeds in our groups. So while this may seem a little lopsided to you, I mean, this is the most fair way to seed this out while still being competitive for a group phase. This race that you see today is a race to determine who is going to actually advance in the bracket. And actually, a great note, we are very close to the elimination bracket. We're going to start at the beginning of next month, but we have just this race and I believe 2 more before the end of the group phase completely. Now that SNES Chalmers has picked up the Titan's Myths, gets a really nice dash through that conveyor belt room, we're going to make our way to the blind fight, which is the second quote-unquote scripted fight of the game. So for this fight against Blind, we have to do 9 hits to defeat Blind. We have some floating heads that are going to try to shoot at us, but based on the way this fight starts, we're going to position ourselves above Blind to get 3 first phase hits for free. Just slash and hold down. Now, the 4th fireball that Blind shoots in every with each head is going to be a fireball that tracks Link's position. So if you know where you're going, if you know the patterns, you're never going to have too much issues with that. SNES Chalmers doing a fantastic job. Almost an optimal fight out of Chalmers for Blind there. You can do it a little bit faster, but not a worry there. That's as good as you can hope for in any situation. Zelda's TV in chat asking about if there's a break at the end of this round. Yes, so there will be a 1-week intermission, I suppose you could call it. This is going to give us time to plan out some of these matches, get schedules sorted out. I know I'm going to want some heads up on doing some commentary, so I appreciate that. So shout out to the tournament organizers. You guys have made some smart decisions here. In the meantime, though, Lyra is opting to skip the bomb jump. Very safe decision to make. So what we do instead is we go to the room to the right here and we head to the basement. Now, some people do choose to pick up the rupees for the flippers here. Lyra could do that. I mean, normally you get them in the Village of Outcasts, but perfectly safe to grab them here if you're not sure where those 300 rupee chests are. Now that Lyra has 500, that is sufficient. However, Lyra may choose to pick up more rupees so that we can buy some bottles, or not bottles, but potions. Great safeties to be taken. Chalmers here picking up 300 rupees on the way to the blacksmith. This is the rupees that Lyra would otherwise be picking up. We're going to grab this blacksmith and head right over to the to his house. Jeremiah Bullfrog here actually is a dwarf in the light world. Moonlight's as a frog. I'm not sure if he's on Fet Life, but might be. But with the life-saving that we just did with the mirror here on Chalmers' screen, we're gonna get a sword that is twice as powerful for 10 rupees. The best deal in Hyrule. Not quite an extortionist like the Zora is, or the monkey in the Palace of Darkness area. Very nice deal. So in the light world, you get some pretty good deals. Well, so with the Tempered Sword, the game becomes considerably easier compared to what we would normally be doing with the Master Sword. It's very important to have the Tempered Sword for this speed run. Not only do we need to have at least a Master Sword just to finish off Ganon, but the time save even from doing this compared to the boss fights, compared to, like, Swamp Palace, for example, you normally have to swing your sword twice to destroy the puffs that you hookshot from Argus. But with a Tempered Sword, you can do it with one swing, so there's a huge time save there. Ganon fight is much faster. Now, whether or not our runners pick up Gold Sword is another choice. I think Lyra probably will because the fight is considerably easier. I recommend that anybody who's picking up the speed run does pick up the Gold Sword and Silver Arrows until you're down to maybe, I don't know, a 140 time or maybe a little bit faster than that. Perfectly valid strategy until then. Ganon fight takes a lot of practice, and that and Ganon's Tower are all very good reasons to pick him up. Ooh, Dad's off in chat, reminding me that Zora is in the light world, so yes, it is the best deal in the light world still, but, you know, not all the extortionists hang out in the dark world. False Nest Chalmers here has a little bit of fun here with some Gibdos. Not getting hugged, thankfully. Has to watch out. It's hard to see exactly, but it looks like he got through there no problems with it. Gibdos being pretty friendly overall. Now, the room that SNES Chalmers was in for that big key, one of the few rooms in the game where the starting spawn points of these enemies are completely random. For the most part, enemies are typically going to spawn in the same position every time. The direction that they move is RNG, though. Discussion in chat about the difference between these two runners. Oh, we got a nice bomb jump here, just like the Tower of Hero one from Chalmers. But as far as the difference in the total time here, I think closer to 15 minutes is probably a good assessment. It was about 10 going into the Dark World. Either way, though, still definitely a great chance for a PB from Lyra here. So, I mean, everybody please continue to cheer her on. Pretty clean run so far, just taking some slower strats. Perfectly valid. Hasn't had a death yet, so there's that to, you know, be thankful for. So questions in the chat about how you can really improve your time. I mean, I was... Ooh, ouch, Lyra, getting hit by a tail swipe. Ooh, sniped. It's really good that we have those fairies. So that's one thing. I mean, if you get all the safeties, good to do. As far as getting down from, say, like sub 2 to around 140, I mean, I'm at 145 myself, so... Or 146, so, you know, I mean, there's not much beyond trying to focus on your movement. Your movement is where you're going to lose a lot of your time, nudging into things, dashing and bonking. There are fast strategies to get through a whole lot of rooms. I would honestly just take the room time spreadsheet, pull up the practice hack, and grind out every room in the entire game. If you do that, you will shave 5, 10, 15, even 20 minutes off your personal best. But SNES Chalmers here in the Mothula fight, probably going to be done with it before I can explain it, but so this room has conveyor belts all over the floor, spikes all over the walls, and yep, it's done. But as far as that fight goes, we want to try to keep Mothula in the center of the room. If you knock Mothula into any of the spikes, it'll override whatever damage you just did. And you can use the fire rod to try to pull them off the walls, though, so that's actually a really great backup to do. But SNES Chalmers is doing really well. We're not supposed to have the... Well, we can have the Tempered Sword at this point. We're just typically not expected to. So having that Tempered Sword makes that fight a breeze, relatively speaking. Now, you can do it with the Master Sword. I have accidentally almost done that in a tournament run, but I do recommend you pick up that Tempered Sword. It's a good reason to do Thieves Town before you do Skull Woods. Because Thieves Town, you don't actually do any extra damage to the boss by having a sword upgrade. Speaking of that practice hack, I'm going to link to that in chat. Made by poor little Pinkus. The guy is an absolute savior to this community. Well, so now that we have finished up both of the dungeons in the top left corner of the map, we have to go get our flippers. And we also need our Quake Medallion for when we do go to Turtle Rock. So we decide to do both of this at once. That castle gate, now that we've defeated Aghanim, is a warp gate to the Dark World. So we're going to use that, go to the right here. And if you were to try to get the optimal timing for Powder, this would actually be the time you would pick it up. Although most people who are going to pick up Powder are probably, like myself, not 1000% confident in both Thieves Town and Skull Woods. So it's only an 8-second difference, you know, but you could grab it now. Now, SNES Chalmers is going to do a really nice setup for a quick warp, hopefully. We're going to grab, one of the bushes. Well, not one of the bushes because he doesn't need a heart. We're going to grab the pot here and throw it, and we're going to bounce against the wall. The reason why is the position we land on will be a perfect X coordinate pixel to set up for the quick warp when we mirror. So all you got to do is walk upwards or stand in place if you're patient. Hit the mirror, and you're going to save half a second on that warp every time. In the meantime, Lyra's going to pick up that flute. Shovel Kid here gives us a pretty easy opportunity to get a quick warp on that screen as well. Just above the tree and slightly off-center to the left, you can warp and you get a quick warp every time. It's kind of a weird lineup, though. There's a couple of setups you can do for it. But always nice to get it. Looks like Lyra's just going to opt to warp just right of where we have to shovel. Hopefully gets in one dig. Nice time save there if you get in one, but nope, we're going to get two. At least it's not 5. Shoutouts to people who, really understand what the dig meta is supposed to be. It's not fast unless you get 5. Now that we have paid the Zora Mem for our flippers, we can now legitimately swim. Also, Lyra getting a really nice fairy drop, opting to try to pick it up, but unfortunately didn't realize we actually already had full fairies. At this point, I'm not sure exactly what the routing is with this. That's strange. I missed something on Lyra's screen because we're doing something I don't Oh, okay, we're just getting around the Usain Bolt guard. Speaking of which, that red guard on Lyra's screen was Usain Bolt, the fastest guard in Hyrule. He is the Olympic world record for the 100-meter dash. Has not done so with Pegasus boots, so very impressive to see that. SNES Chalmers will walk into Ice Palace as well, and Lyra will activate that flute. So if we hadn't already activated Powder, this would be when we'd normally do it for most runners. But so, SNES Chalmers and Ice Palace, if you blink, you might miss it. This is a very fast dungeon. So, Ice Palace here is very quick because we do a really sick bomb jump, and you're going to see it in just a couple of screens here. Oh yeah, chat asking about what a 5 dig is. No, it's just a meme in the community. A runner by the name of, well, actually, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Metatron or Emma, actually tried to dig a bunch of times in one spot, and we made a clip out of it and constantly harass her about it. But she's a sport. She, in good humor, rolls along with it, no problems. But I would probably be a bit saltier than her. Alright, so SNES Chalmers is going to go to the Ice Palace bomb jump in the next room. He's going to hit that switch to put the pegs up, and you might be like, well, hey, what are we doing that for? He's going to line himself up in one of 3 different positions that actually work for this bomb jump, and then he's going to place Link in another position after placing the bomb down. That'll get him around these pegs. Now, why is that important, you might be asking? We're going to skip half the dungeon because of that. It's a gigantic time save. If there's any bomb jump you want to learn in this run, it's this one, more than any other. Yeah, so Chad asking about what we're going to skip as far as the big key chest goes here. That is going to be the blue mail. Now, there is an opportunity to get the red mail in Ganon's Tower, so if we're going to pick up a mail upgrade, it's probably going to be then. Lyra may opt to do that, though. Might opt to pick up the blue mail while here, because if Lyra doesn't know how to do this bomb jump, which, I mean, I have no idea. I think I commentated a race before for Lyra, but I don't recall immediately if we do the bomb jump. If not, then that's a good reason to pick it up. But for the most part, NMG speedruns very rarely see it. Alrighty, SNES Chalmers is walking into one of the most scary fights of the game, Cold Stare. Cold Stare here is an icy boss, has a cold heart. We're going to pump all of our magic into this shell, so you cannot do this fight without full magic, unless you have half magic or a potion or something. But then we're going to try and keep him right in the corner there and smack him a bunch of times with the sword, and wow, SNES Chalmers is a very good fight. The scary thing about that fight is those icicles from the ceiling do 2 hearts of damage. Hugging Cold Stare does 4, so with Green Mail Link. So that was really tight. We're always happy to see people get through Ice Palace unscathed. SNES Chalmers got to be feeling good about that that boss fight. Lyra, on the other hand, is in what we like to call the Hellway. I missed this on Chalmers' screen as he went through. A lot of enemies, very difficult. There is an anti-fairy here as well if you have powder. Good place to get a heal. Chad asking about the time difference between Bombos Cold and regular Cold Stare. Well, you definitely have to go get Bombos to do that, and that's about, I don't know, 30-second to minute time loss on that, just from getting the medallion. But as far as the time to destroy the shell, I mean, it's maybe 5-10 seconds. It's not a gigantic difference. One thing you could do, though, is if you have full health walking into that fight, you can slash sword beams at the shell, and if you line that up at the same time that the fire rod shots hit, it'll do extra damage to the shell, so you can save some magic. It's a more difficult strategy to do, but you can save some magic for the second phase if you're not feeling confident about that, and if you want to get extra fire rod hits, that's a great way to do it. It's called Sword Beam Cold Stare. And Avazi and Chad actually mentioned the exact strat that I was just talking about. So that is the sword beam strats. I do it myself. It's kind of difficult to do, but I mean, if you want to stay safe with your health, that's, you know, if you're going to pick up the fairy anyway, if you want the magic. Yeah, I definitely recommend most people try to learn using the practice hack to do the regular fire rod method. That's the most consistent, the fastest. You probably just want to do that in most situations anyway, but if you have safeties anyway, you know, no worries. If you're really concerned, though, you could pick up half magic while you are turning in the blacksmith, and that's probably the better safety to take. I would recommend doing that over ever getting bombos. Truthfully, half magic is a great safety to take, particularly if you're taking powder. Chad asking about the time difference between Lyra and Chalmers. Kind of hard to say, probably about 15 minutes or so right now, but they also are probably going to be taking some different routes here, so that's a difficult question to answer. But here in Swan Palace, remember how I said before that this is the second dungeon in the intended dungeon order? Well, this is the 5th one we're going to do in the Dark World. We do not play around here in A Link to the Past, no major glitches. And now that we have that Tempered Sword and all of this damage that we're going to do with it, we are walking, talking tanks. Well, actually, we don't talk, but unless you're playing GBA. The GBA version Link does talk, sort of. Hashtag I hate that game. That is the worst version of the game. We got the blind fight from Lyra here. Lyra does have a few safeties to work with, but if we have a clean first and second phase, it shouldn't matter either way. Doing a sword spin, which sends you a little bit further off, but with those sword beams, it's very easy to get distant shots against blind. So some smart moves here. Lyra getting the first and the second. Gotta watch out for those hugs. The fireballs do 1 heart of damage. Colliding with the head or blind himself does 2. So we have 2 out of the 3 on the last phase. With this fairy revival, should be absolutely fine. Ooh, Parisian player in chat asking the hard-hitting questions. When is intended dungeon order a popular category? When is that going to become a thing? I am right there with you. If you want to start that speedrun, let's make a leaderboard. Pause buffering is not considered a glitch. It is just intended use of the game's mechanics. Nothing wrong with doing that. So pause buffering is actually an invaluable resource. Anytime you gotta change a weapon, or not a weapon, but an item, for any reason, you should do so when you're going to be able to do a more precise movement. So if you want to end a dash, if you want to change the direction of your dash, even if you want to dodge a boss's attack, I mean, pause buffering is just fantastic. Well, I say intended strat because it's an intended mechanic. Like, I mean, the game doesn't explicitly tell you, hey, you gotta pause here to dodge something, but I mean, it's a regular input. Like, maybe I should just not use that phrasing. Fake flippers is allowed mostly because, you know, it doesn't really cut any content out of the game. I mean, you do something faster, but it's, you know, it's an exploit of the game system. It's like a minor glitch. It's not something that, you know, skips a dungeon or an item. So not being a major glitch, as we kind of define most of them, it's one of those weird things where every game's got some different definitions about what is considered major or minor. So you may see some differences in that definition compared to other games. Not to be surprising, I recommend checking out the entire full rule list on speedrun.com/ALTTP so that you can really see what the entire boundaries of that are. But so now that SNES Chalmers has the hook shot, we can do some very fun things. He has a hook dash, which is an item dash using the hook shot, and because of that, he's able to pick up the pot on the first try underneath that statue. Not exactly sure why the super speed state from hookshot allows you to do that, but that is a thing. Sorry to hear about that in chat, Sundark, missing the ice rod, but that's actually a very valid concern for the speed run. Our runners have a couple of options about when they want to go pick up that ice rod. As soon as they have the flute, it's pretty much, you know, irrelevant when they pick it up as long as they don't, you know, stop whatever they're doing for the route. So it looks like Lyra is getting the powder. I may have been wrong earlier. I thought Lyra grabbed the powder earlier, so was just picking up natural fairies, which means that we haven't had that many deaths, all in all. That's pretty good to see. In the meantime, though, SNES Chalmers here is about to fight off against Argus. There is a fast kill strat here called a zero cycle attack, or zero cycle boss kill, but he's not going to go for it this time. You could do a hook dash and some very difficult inputs to basically double the speed that you're killing these buffs. But one attack cycle is very, you know, good boss fight anyway. Having a little trouble with that last one, but so he's going to switch to Fire Rod. We're going to position the drop here against the wall, get 2 Fire Rod shots in, do a sword spin, and that will kill Argus in just one jump. Well, with that, we have Link holding items up on both screens. One's a red sword, also known as the bread sword, also known as tempered. SNES Chalmers getting the longest cutscene in the game, which is Swamp Palace. In the meantime, speaking of half magic, Lyra will pick up a half magic here. Well, I mentioned this way earlier in the run, but anytime you have text boxes, you can always obviously mash the 4, you know, face buttons to get through them. But the very last one in any sequence can be cleared by any button on the controller, including L and R, which we don't use for anything. So a lot of times you'll see our runners do that just so that they don't add extra inputs. But as far as, Chad also asking about what half magic does, you use half as much magic with any item. So you effectively double your magic meter, but the game doesn't want to, extend that down lower, I guess. And maybe they were just like, lazy with the UI development. And instead of doubling the meter, they just say it's half magic. Interestingly enough, Lyra here is going to get the 4th bottle. Now, this would be Lyra's 3rd bottle. We didn't go to the hobo or anything under the bridge who has the other bottle, but this is going to be even extra safety for later. So at this point, we could probably pick up 2 fairies and a potion, the blue potion being very useful. But we're going to head back to Kakariko at this point because we have not done Skull Woods yet, I don't believe. Well, Sness Chalmers here needs that Ether Medallion in order to get into Misery Mire, and this is basically like the shopping trip of the run. Also, shout-outs to Chad being awesome, thank you. Skull Woods is a very fast dungeon, so Lyra here just mostly trying to avoid taking a lot of damage and too many hugs. Sness Chalmers, though, is going to need that Fire Rod to do Turtle Rock in a little while, so... Well, the next dungeon after Misery Mire. So he's going to opt to grab this now. He could opt to grab it later, but it's very easy to forget it, so I don't blame him at all for doing that right now. A question in chat about the visual artifacts they're seeing on Lyra's screen. There's a couple different things. It's probably either 1, capture quality, or 2, like bitrate. I mean, Twitch is kind of weird, so, don't worry about that. There's nothing weird about the game. It could also be in 30 frames per second, so that's, there are a lot of reasons that things in Link to the Past look kind of weird when being streamed. Don't sweat that. Well, folks, it's time to find out. Does Sness Chalmers love the memes? Are we going to get a bird toss today? Crossing my fingers. The madman loves the memes. He tosses the bird into the water, and all is right with the world. We're going to enter Misery Mire with full health and a bird toss, +1 to swag. Chad asking about the bird toss. Well, there is this gentleman by the name Walrus Prime. It's a big day every day for that man. He once found himself with the bird in his way after doing the Ether Medallion and decided to just toss it into the water, not knowing what to do with it. And the meme was born. Now, of course, there's no time save, there's no advantage. It is literally just a joke in the community. So, I mean, in a serious speed run and like a really close race, for example, you probably never toss the bird. But I do appreciate Sness Chalmers paying homage to Walrus Prime's unfortunate mishap. We have Parisian player in chat, being the true, speed runner, saying that we should not waste time if we're doing a meme strat. I have to agree with you, but I also do love memes for the sake of memes, so you're going to see a lot of controversial disagreement between people in this community about stuff like that, but that's because, some people really got to go fast, some people really want to laugh. But so that was one of the longer wall cutscenes. You also got to see on Sness Chalmers' screen that he was able to use the fire rod through a block. That's a curious mechanic, isn't it? It's kind of a strange thing about how this game works. Blocks are normally impassable objects, but when you're moving them, they become a sprite for just a moment, and because of that, they actually don't have collision detection. So you can use an item like a hookshot or a fire rod going right through it. We do that to make that room, the torch room, considerably faster. Now, an interesting thing about that, torch room is generally used as kind of like a keyframe if you're trying to figure out how much time you have left in your run. Runners who do everything pretty well will be around 20 to 21 minutes from the end of their run when they get into that room. It's a good reference point. So if Chalmers does very well, we're looking at a potentially sub 130 time here, which is a very fast race time. That being said, though, that requires a lot of things to go right and a lot of things to not go wrong, so fingers crossed, but things are looking good for SNES Chalmers having a really good time to help with the seeding for the elimination bracket. Well, with that, Chalmers will head to the basement of Meyer. Lyra here is going to make the attack on Mothula. Now, this is an interesting fight to see because with half magic, you have a lot more fire rod shots available to you. But I'm not sure how many fairies we have left at this point. I haven't had a chance to check the entire inventory. Lyra wisely waiting for the Floor Master to fall down because you can get grabbed in 1.0 even after you dropped into the pit. That's a very strange thing, by the way. Well, one of the reasons you do want to finish the Mothula fight as fast as possible is because these spikes are a pain. They do 1 heart of damage, and they get all up in your way, and the conveyor belts on the floor actually do change directions periodically throughout the fight. Well, with that, Mothula is down for Lyra, so took a fairy revival, not a problem though. We are through the fight, so nicely done. Now, SNES Chalmers here is about to do a very interesting, hopefully a very interesting, a damage boost strategy originated by WQ. We are going to step into the poisonous goo to take 1 heart of damage. This will give us invincibility frames, which we can use to charge up a sword spin and do a crud ton of damage to these eyeballs. We didn't get a 0 cycle out of it because we did have to delay a little bit for some arrows to finish off the last couple eyeballs. But after that, you just pump 8 arrows right into the eyeball, and it is done. Now, if you do that strat optimally, you're only going to lose 4 hearts of damage. However, SNES Chalmers playing it safe, opting to wait a little bit longer on the lightning cycle attacks to make sure that the eyeballs went down without, making contact with them. Those eyeballs do 4 hearts of damage when they collide with you, so wise decision by SNES Chalmers. Wastes a little bit of time, saves probably a death. Well, now that Lyra is done with Skull Woods, next step is to grab a fairy refill, it looks like. I did not know that those bonk rocks stay destroyed. It's been a long time since I played this, and gone through that screen for that. Interesting thing to remember. But SNES Chalmers here is on the way to Turtle Rocks, so now that we have all of our stuff, for the shopping trip, we've grabbed our Ether Medallion for Misery Mire, we've grabbed Ice Rod for Turtle Rock. Now all that's left is to go up there and take on Trinex. Now, Lyra has plenty of rubies to work with. Made sure to grab all kinds of extras in case we wanted potions. Pretty smart decision in hindsight. But we do have all the 500 rubies we need for Zora's flippers, so Lyra will be grabbing those flippers before we head to Ice Palace. I believe head to Ice Palace. So we haven't done Swamp Palace yet, but there's no reason that we would go to one over the other. Chad having a lot of technical discussion about the mirror erase, the block erasure glitch. I truthfully don't know. That is something that is, I pretty much have to have a coding level understanding of this game, and to be entirely honest with you, I don't. Although Super Scudge out there might. In the meantime, though, we get a nice little hook dash. Hook dashing, by the way, does activate the super speed glitch when you just need to touch a manual staircase to, get the speed. We'll also get a medallion dash here out of SNES Chalmers, so he's going to use the item and the dash in the same frame. Now, you don't get the super speed out of it because we're not on enough of a movement speed differential when you walk up and down. Oh, he did get it, actually. That's rare. You have to step a little further onto it. But so with that super speed, you're going to quick hop off the ledge, which saves you a couple of extra frames there. That's the dangerous thing about super speed, is if you touch any ledge, you'll instantly jump off of it. Oftentimes losing you time, like the one in the desert, can cost you a couple minutes. Oh, Chad making the point that there are some movable blocks that you could erase in Kakariko. The mirror glitch, I believe, will work there because the mirror wouldn't work otherwise for any other reason. But yeah, I mean, that's not very functionally useful, though, for the speedrun. While we have our flippers, we are in Turtle Rock as well for SNES Chalmers. We're going to find out now if that prize pack we manipulated earlier is going to give us a fairy. This Pokey here is the one we want to find it from. And he gets the fairy drop, so he's going to have full health walking into the Chain Chomp room. These Chain Chomps do 4 hearts of damage, so if you have any kind of mishaps with bad RNG, well, he didn't. SNES Chalmers would have been just fine without it, but finding that fairy is super useful. That is the best place in the game to get a full heal. In the meantime, Lyra is going to pick up the magic boomerang. That's an interesting grab. I don't see that too often. Might also throw a bottle into the lake to get a full refill. I believe would give us a green potion. Also going to get the magic shield. So that's probably the most useful upgrade that we're getting here. Magic shield does deflect fireballs, so in certain fights coming up, in certain rooms of, say, Gan's Tower, that'd be a really useful upgrade to have. Yeah, so that fairy drop, we've been manipulating that for 45 minutes. So those prize packs we talked about before, if you kill enemies within it, you have that 50% chance that they drop their prize pack item. Now that fairy is the second in the prize pack. We already got the heart drop earlier on from the mini Helmasaur during the Hammer Yump in Palace of Darkness. So the fairy is just a 50-50 coin flip. He got it this time, probably very happy to get it. And actually, come to think of it, it's very likely that he guaranteed that prize pack by doing that dash attack through the blue guards in Hyrule Castle. So props to him. It looks like that, secured him nearly full health at this point. Using some really nice iframes from the peg blocks to guarantee that he doesn't take the 4 hearts of damage from the rollers there. Very smart heads-up play there. Lyra once again grabbing some extra backup fairies, making sure that we're not going to die here. Forgetting that we already have full, but with 3 bottles, should be in good shape for the next dungeon. And then, of course, we did already pick up Quake and Flippers, so at this point, Lyra's just heading back to the Dark World. We're going to see a laser bridge skip out of SNES Chalmers here, so only the front part of that laser actually damages you, and if you dash through and hold up at the right time, you're not going to take any damage from that. We do not need the mirror shield because of that. Making excellent use of the Canis Samaria to hit that block. We're going to get the Trinex fight up ahead. We're going to put both of those rods to use immediately. What we're going to do is we need to get 5 attacks with our Tempered Sword and 2 attacks from each rod to destroy each head individually. So we're going to get, he's going to do backdoor strats as well, hitting from behind Trinex. So we're going to get 2 slashes on that cycle. You'll notice he switches his rod before hitting the last one because while the boss is in an explosion animation, you can't actually access your menu at all. So it's very important to switch beforehand. Now that we got that one though, we're going to explode the C4 shell that Trinex has. Not exactly sure why the CGI budget includes that C4 in the shell. We're going to do some sword spins, and Trinex is down. Now, if Lyra chooses to get the gold sword, that fight will be even faster. Well, with SNES Chalmers having destroyed Trinex, Lyra here is actually going to double check for fairies here. I think we already have full fairies though, so might just be opening up the door just in case. That fairy normally in that fairy cave would give you upgrades. Oh, we did actually lose one. Would give you upgrades to your arrows and bombs if you throw in 100 rupees. You can upgrade each by 5. very time consuming. We would not do this in a, like we wouldn't ever spend the time to get those rupees and upgrade. But you can also get those fairies, which Lyra very wisely knows about. Well, we do have 4 bottles on Lyra's screen with 3 fairies, so this is as safe of a trip through Ice Palace as we can make it. Ooh, a really nice super speed out of SNES Chalmers out of Turtle Rock there. That was really nice to see. And now the namesake of their group, the Lionels. That's right, folks. Group W that both of our runners are from is actually named after the Lionel. And the Lionel makes its first... Well, actually, I don't know if it's in Zelda 1 or 2, to be honest with you. But I believe this is the first entry in the series that has Lionels. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong. Well, you know what time it is, folks. It's time for us to run through Ganon's Tower, go fight Aghanim, go kill the pig, have some bacon for dinner, and call it a day. Chat reminded me that there are Lionels in Zelda 1, so I was absolutely wrong about that. Thank you for the correction. You're going to see on Lyra's screen a really nice double kill with that bomb. Interesting thing about those Stalfos Knights that you might not know is that the trigger for whether or not they are killable depends on whether you've collapsed one. Now, the trigger for both of them is shared, so if you've collapsed one of them, both of them are now vulnerable to bombs, and if either of them stand back up, they're both invincible to bombs, even if one of them's still down. So keep that in mind when you're going through that room. You want to get that fast kill as much as possible. Also reduces a ton of lag. Now, Lyra is going to attempt the bomb jump, which is nice to see, because it would be very long to go the other way around. In the meantime, though, SNES Chalmers tearing it up in the basement of Ganon's Tower, just ripping through these rooms. Like, I don't even have time to keep up with that. We're going to go through this warp maze as fast as possible without triggering any extra warps if we can. There's a nice skip here where you can bonk against the wall to slide past that last warp tile. It just saves you an extra warp. Nothing too big, but great to see. You'll also see the Ice Armos fight coming up next. We're going to grab 5 arrows here. SNES Chalmers has full arrows, which is a really great place to be, particularly if you don't have silver arrows. Lyra here appears to be going for the farthest left possible lineup, and this may actually be why we picked up all these extra fairies, because this is a very frustrating trick if you are having some trouble with the perfect lineup. Some people believe this to be the hardest bomb jump in the game. Wouldn't be surprised if that's how people feel, because while I like this one better than Hammer Jump, opinions vary widely on that. Well, the lineup looks pretty good. SNES Chalmers had a great Ice Armos fight. Ooh, Lyra's just 1 pixel too low for that. But that's okay, we have plenty of extra fairies to work with, and we do have powder for when we get to the basement, so we could potentially try this another 7 or 8 tries if we needed to. 7 based on the bomb count. You're going to see some really nice Mimic strategies. Chalmers here, going to take advantage of the fact that Mimics do continue to move even when we're in the middle of an animation. They respond to your directional pad inputs. To line up those Mimics right in front of them, pump a couple arrows in. Mimics 2, same story. And Boomski, he's right through. There's a lot of fast strats for this spike room that he's going through. He's just going to opt to dash through, though, no problems. If he gets lucky and has timed himself up... Oh, he gets hit by the red Igor. Or the red Igor. That's unfortunate. But Lyra pulls off the bomb jump. Very nicely done. With 1 heart left, no problems, though. We're going to pick up a heart pot here. We're going to hug the wall, hopefully, or take the corner. Both are safe. Ooh, SNES Chalmers dashing all the way through Ganon Ball Z. Very nicely done. He is entering the gauntlet with almost 10 hearts. Definitely a very healthy place to be. This gauntlet is a long section of kill rooms where you are going to have to rely on drops you get, and then when you reach the room before Lamolus 2, you can powder. He does not have powder, so this is all the health he's going to have besides drops until Ganon. Ooh, some really nice movement out of Lyra there in that ice room. Could have gone off rails a bit, but decided to use sword slashes to reposition in the room. Now, if you use dashes, you can slide yourself back into position and move in a cardinal direction without having to worry about the ice physics. When you release the dash, though, if you haven't made it all the way into the staircase, you tend to lose a little bit of time from sliding around from delayed ice physics. So that's Chalmers here doing the Lamolus 2 fight using Fire Rod, opting to switch to sword spins after having used a little bit too much magic. So he will have enough magic, he plenty to work with. Lyra has a great advantage for this cold stare fight, having half magic, meaning that we can use a fair amount of magic for the second phase as well. Also has 2 fairies and a blue potion, so in great position to get through this fight, no problems. Whilst Ness Chalmers gets good luck going through that room, Lyra here is going to get a sword spin off early and is just going to start mashing that Fire Rod. Very smart decision to make, because you're going to get a full magic refill after this fight anyway, so might as well use it. Just a little shy there, just going to need a 1 sword spin or a slash or 2, and gets through the fight no problems. Very well done by Lyra. Chalmers picking up a full magic refill before ascending the stairs. He's going to need it for these torches. I didn't see exactly how he got through that room, but he's about half of his magic down, so I'm assuming that he used his Fire Rod. Next up, he's going to use his very last bomb here, which, if he had missed that, that would have been really annoying. There are backups in the room before, but no one likes to waste that time. And he doesn't have any opportunity to pick up any extra health besides that heart. He will get the last magic refill, also known as the last gas station before Ganon, because Moldorm 2 here is going to be a very fast fight as well. We only need a couple of sword slashes now that we have Tempered Mail, or the Tempered Sword. And if we were a madman, we would try a hover here to cross the gap, which is a technique I don't care to explain because I don't really know exactly the timing behind it. But otherwise, we can just use the hook shot to get across. The room he's in now, though, the conveyor belts and the mini Helmasaur, is very, very trolly room. There's bumpers all over the place and spikes. If you time your dash well, no problems. We're going to find out, hopefully, whether or not he has a good Aghanim 2 fight. Having a bit of a stutter here, so I'm going to try to do my best to keep up with it. Well, I heard 2 hits, so he got a double on that first phase. Getting a single on the second cycle. Ooh, and he pulls off a triple on the third cycle. Wow, so that's a very good Aghanim fight. That was hard to hit that third, so he did a sword slash to finish that out. I know you guys couldn't really see it too well, but you could hear it with the audio. Very impressed by that Aghanim. So we are entering the Ganon fight at just over 127.10. This is a great run out of Ness Chalmers. Alrighty, folks, Ganon time. So, this is our very favorite fight in the game. You're going to practice this more than anything. We need 12 slashes with the Tempered Sword in order to advance phase 1 and 2. We're going to get 3 in real quick, do some sword spins between him and the Trident to get extra hits in. Hopefully nailing a bunch of slashes in to finish up the first phase. I hear dashes, so he is in phase 2 where the fire bats circle outwards, come back in, and then start attacking you. Those poke dashes that he's doing are very effective, but he is going to take a death. Ouch, that's punishing. Alrighty, folks, I'm a little out of breath here, but I'm going to try to keep up with it. Ganon here, he's going to do a refight. So like we said before, we're going to do 12 hits to... Ouch, taking a hug immediately. I think Chalmers is listening to this commentary, trying to give me a quick break. Well, so he gets the nice setup early on in the fight. Now, it's hard to continue fighting Ganon after you've died, because you only start with, 8 hearts to work with. 1 hug from Ganon does 8 hearts to Greenmail Link, so these poke dash strats are really impressive. He had one cycle first phase and a 2-cycle second phase, so should have pretty good luck moving through here. Alright, so Lyra has done some circles around the entrance to Misery Mire, seemingly avoiding the bird. I'm wondering if we're also going to get a bird toss out of Lyra today. Lyra is also a fan of the memes, going to toss that bird. Shoutouts and O to that person. Lyra, you're a G. She really knows what's up. Alright, so phase 3 of, of the Ganon fight. He's going to jump and stomp and throw a tantrum. We got to hit him once to make sure he has a bad day. After you've done that 4 times, the floor has fallen out completely on the sides here, and he's going to use the quote-unquote technique of darkness, except we're going to subvert that with something called the torch glitch. If you light the left torch before the right one goes out, the right one stays lit. So by doing that, we can save basically half the magic we're going to use in this fight, and because of that, we can afford to use the fire rod, which gives us a little more flexibility to line up these sword spins. Now, you can't see it very well, but we're doing sword spins right before Ganon warps, which actually will do damage even though we don't have the silver arrows. You only need to do this 12 times with the Tempered Sword to finish Ganon off, And with that, SNES Chalmers has finished up the Ganon fight. Very nicely done. Fire Rod strat's really making for a fast fight here. Well, with that, SNES Chalmers is going to done here on Speed Racing TV. So his official Speed Racing TV time of 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 26 seconds. GG, what a race. I'm going to see if we can get SNES Chalmers in here for an interview. In the meantime, though, Lyra, she is heading through Misery Mire now. We have taken care of the first few rooms here. We're going to go pick up a key from this pot here, and I'm not sure exactly which way we're going. Okay, we're just killing some enemies, making sure we're clear through that room. Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay there on my side. But so with that, we're going to walk into the left half of the dungeon. Now, this is a bit of a confusing dungeon, so I'm not surprised to see, just trying to make sure we're going the right way here. May have forgotten that we want to go to the room south of that. Looks like we will have an opportunity to get Chalmers in for a quick interview. Give me just one moment for that. And I am joined by SNES Chalmers. You may have to unmute yourself, but GG, SNES.
Yo, thanks, Udai.
That was an incredible race to watch.
I mean, what you could see of it, besides, the PowerPoint parts, but...
Hey, audio cues were enough. We saw that really nice 3-cycle Aghanim, by the way. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, that should have been a lot better, but it still turned out to be pretty good. I was happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, all throughout this run, really great execution. You got to give us a lot of examples of things for me to explain, so I appreciate that here on the comm side.
Nice. Glad I could help.
Well, so, I mean, as far as this run goes, I mean, I know this isn't, quite your personal best. I think you have a 128 and some change, right?
Yeah, 41, I think. Tied with the legendary Scrivo.
Yeah, shout-outs to people who are tied with you right now, because, I mean, that is a pretty fast time. I'd be pretty proud of that myself.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I wish I had more time to play and get better right now, but I've been really busy with school and such, so I've had to kind of put Link to the Past on the back burner. I
hear you on that, and real life always comes first. But so this is really great for you, though, this win today, because this is going to push you forward in the brackets. This should secure your berth here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I was kind of scared for a second there. I lost my first match to Blaine, and then Zero Rush has been playing amazing lately, so the fact that I beat him kind of surprised the hell out of me.
Well, so I'm wondering, what was your fastest time in groups, do you know?
In groups, it might be this, or it might be my match against Zero. I think I got a 1:30.12 against him.
That's insanely consistent to be within half a minute of each other on times.
Yeah, would have been a little faster if I didn't walk into Ganon like 3 times right now, but hey, what can I do?
Yeah, we saw a Parisian player in chat talking about how he was worried about his seating against you, but turns out you did him a favor.
Yeah, I read that as I was fighting Ganon, so I was like, I'll just walk into him a couple times. It's all right, I got you.
Well, you know, you gotta do what you can, right?
I'll hook up Parisian players. I love Parisian. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. And speaking of which, folks, if you haven't seen it, that guy actually has a blindfold around this game. Kind of insane.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's all major glitches blindfolded run, which is absolutely insane. Great watch.
But so it's going to be really exciting to see what we're going to get out of you in the bracket stage of the tournament. Do you have any plans for practicing? I know you said you have a lot of things going on in your life.
Well, hopefully after this week's done, I'll be good. I have exams this week, and then I'm done my college term. So hopefully I'll have some time for practice. Not so much practice I want to get into, but some internet fixes and, you know, all that. So streams are actually a little more consistent.
Well, I mean, it was a privilege to watch it. I mean, you might have thought at certain times a bit of a slideshow, but honestly, we caught all the important things. We saw you going fast.
Good.
And it's been an absolute privilege to commentate this race for you.
Oh, I'm happy to have you do it. You've been crushing it on comms all tournament, and it's much appreciated.
Hey, you guys have the hard part. I mean, all I got to do is talk about Zelda. You guys got to actually pull off this stuff. And, you know, I'm not a great, speedrunner myself. I'm just happy to see you guys do it.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to put on a show. I'm glad I got to put one on for so many people. I mean, like you said, I got a 128, but this was still a pretty decent run. I was very happy with it.
You know, I got to ask you, though, I mean, there's a decision to toss that bird, and at the risk of your own health, what was in your mind at that point?
Well, you know, I woke up this morning having a real big day, and I was thinking of my boy Walrus Prime, and that bird needed to go.
That's what we love to hear. That's what the fans love to see as well. So greatly appreciate that. Other than that, though, I know you said you didn't have a whole lot of time for an interview. Do you have any other closing thoughts to share with the audience?
I'm just glad you guys enjoyed the race. Really want Lyra to finish off strong right here. I know she's got quite a bigger PB than mine, but still was holding up there for quite a while.
Yeah, and she's on pretty good pace overall. I mean, 136 compared to, I think she has like a 215. I saw it earlier.
Yeah, 2 hours and something there on speed gaming, I believe. She can keep it up. Can definitely cut that by quite a bit.
Yeah, 214.23, and in Meyer right now stands a really good chance of getting a great PB today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Watching this Vitreous fight right now.
Oh, that reminds me, I'm a little bit ahead of you, actually.
Okay, yeah. I haven't resynced the page in quite some time, so.
Well, not only that, but the commentary feed. But Lyra
true.
have a lot of safeties to work with too. Picked up all 4 bottles in this run.
Oh dang, that probably came in handy though.
Yeah, actually. But I mean, Lyra's been running a lot better than maybe she believes for herself. Because I mean, a lot of these fairies haven't even come out.
Nice.
Against this Vitreous fight.
Yeah, that's usually the stages where you, like a runner will know they can start dropping safeties, or, you know, in the case of 4 bottles, you can drop down to maybe 2 bottles and something like that as they get better and better.
Well, that's sage advice for any new runners out there, and I want to just echo those sentiments. It's very wise to, get through the whole run and then figure out if you can drop them.
Yeah, safeties are a great thing. When I started, I did net 2 bottles, powder, half magic, and I rode quite a few of those till about like a high 130, and I think I dropped half magic at like 136 or something like that. It's fantastic. Safeties are great in this game.
Note to self, free PB if I keep these safeties.
Yeah. Well, then you get better and better, and then you want to drop them, and then the PBs are even freer.
Very, very valid point. Good way to look at it. So I'm definitely not going to be done with this speed run. Sounds like you aren't either, because you are advancing to the brackets. So I'm really excited to see the rest of this tournament run.
Oh, me too. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to see who I play.
One thing that I have seen from Lyra today, though, is a lot of use of the fairies west of Link's house. That's something I think a lot of runners aren't aware of.
Yeah, those are pretty nice to have. Those are actually, like you said, very underutilized. And for new runners, it's just really easy to go pick them up after a certain point in the game.
Yeah, definitely a good thing to have in the back pocket. Also, we had somebody in chat asking if you had a 17-minute PB. No, I don't believe that was a 17-minute PB.
A 17-minute PB? No. No, I do not.
No, it's about 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes, or no, it's just under 2 minutes over your current PB, right?
Yes. It's getting there, give or take.
Interestingly enough, though, we do get the divergence between the two routes. We're getting the gold sword and silver arrows right now.
Yeah, also gold and silvers were in that list of safeties I got. I completely forgot about those.
Probably one of the biggest ones to get. I mean, obviously powder is huge. Bottle and Bugnet are huge, but Ganon's Tower and Ganon himself are one of the biggest things that kill new runs.
Yeah, the Ganon fight alone, like even as you saw, I walked into Ganon like twice there. I died with just tempered, whereas with butter and silvers, you can play that much safer as you need so many fewer hits.
Yeah, compared to the 12 sword slashes, it would otherwise be 6 per phase. So huge difference. And the silver arrows make the last phase a breeze.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where a lot of the time comes from as well. That last phase there.
A lot of folks don't even realize, though, if you did silverless with gold for whatever reason, it would still be the same number of sword spins.
Yes, in the last phase there.
But that's just a weird quirk about sword damage. You know, the gold sword only gives you so much of an advantage compared... I mean, it's literally equivalent to a tempered sword spin.
Yeah. Gold sword only I find really helps during, like, well, I guess not even through Mire, but like Trinex is a lot quicker. I think that's probably only it, and then early Ganon.
Yeah, those are the biggest time saves from doing this. So safety routes, I mean, what would you say? It's about a minute and a half difference if you grab the gold and silvers on optimal routes?
Yeah, I think it's slightly over a minute. I'm not 100% sure on that timing, though.
Yeah, so for a lot of folks out there, I mean, the time you're going to save from not dying in Ganon's Tower or Ganon himself, absolutely worth it.
Oh, exactly. Play safe until you're comfortable.
Also, we've got, that should finish up your group then, I believe. As far as your group goes, I'm pulling up the challenge page right now, actually.
Nice. Yeah, I believe this was the last race, I think.
On the group, Lionel, of course.
Yes. Good old Lionel Hutz. There's another Simpsons reference for you.
Yeah, so Zero Rush will be 2-1. Lyra will be 1-2. Bwayne will be 1-2, and you'll be 2-1.
Yes. Yes. Kind of happy with that. Like I said, didn't know how things were going to go after losing to Bwayne.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because your group traded wins and losses with each other. Like, I mean, the tiebreak scenario here, if Lyra had won today, would have been like ridiculous. I think it would have been just average race time.
Yeah, I think it would have came down to that.
Which could have been a weird way to get around the actual win-loss.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been cool to see. I'm sorry I didn't do that.
Well, that's for another NMG tournament. I'm sure we're going to have plenty more after this one. This one was actually twice as large as the one in 2016, which I'm excited to see. I'm new to the community myself.
Nice. Yeah, I wasn't actually running even during that tournament. I was watching it myself. I was just a spectator at that time. I think I had just started learning actually, like while it was going on.
And of course, folks, if you're picking up this game, one thing to keep in mind is that this game will teach you something new every day, whether you're running it, watching it, commentating it, both. You'll never be done learning about this game.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, and the best thing about this game is if you come into the Discord, everybody is super helpful, and I've had so many great people teach me how to play this game well, so yeah, it's a great community. I really give a lot of props to everyone who's helps out the newer runners.
And it continues to grow and grow thanks to events like this. So just a great opportunity to point this out, folks. If you loved what you saw today, if you love the content in the race, I highly recommend you follow these racers. Lyra on the left, SNES Chalmers _ on the right. We'll post a link in the chat. But folks, please show them your love. They put on a great show for us today.
Yeah, thank you, and make sure you follow your commentators. Well, commentator, Unimonistic in this case. Awesome comms as always. I can't wait to watch this one back.
Should be a lot of fun. I went a little less on jokes today. There's maybe like 2 or 3 good ones, but I don't know if you caught the other one with Magus. But
I don't think I did.
we turned it into the Hyrule Football League.
Oh God. The HFL?
Yep. Zora's the commissioner. It's a long story. But...
Oh God. Well, I'll probably see it when I watch it back then.
And of course, folks, as we wrap up this group phase, there is a lot more NMG ready for us as we enter the next month. We will be starting up the elimination bracket at that point, so you will actually get an opportunity to see SNES Chalmers fighting his way through the bracket as well. This is not the end for him, so stay tuned, folks, to everything here in Speed Gaming. We're going to have a lot more NMG and, of course, Randomizer for you in the coming weeks.
Yeah, a lot of good action here on Speed Gaming.
Sorry, I had to take a breath there.
Yeah, no worries. You probably are a little tired. You're doing that solo the whole time. Can never be too easy.
I don't know. You guys give us a lot to talk about.
Yeah, well, gotta make it interesting.
All right, speaking of that, I actually am going to step away from the mic for just 1 minute. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with the audience, Ness?
No, I think we've basically covered everything. I actually got to get going myself. I got an early morning of classes, so I got to get some sleep. But
well, hey, good luck on that.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much for commentating, and thanks everyone for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed.
We'll catch you next race. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Alrighty, folks, I am back. So, thanks again to SNES Chalmers for joining us for the interview and also for the great race we saw today. In the meantime, though, Lyra here is in Swamp Palace, going to take care of Argus at this point. Now, we have picked up the gold sword and silver arrows, so we actually have a opportunity to do a fast kill on the boss, which would be really exciting. And SNES Chalmers in chat also as well bringing up, hey, folks, let's cheer Lyra on. This is still an opportunity for a PB for Lyra. With these safeties all in behind her, she does have the wind at her sails to get through the next few dungeons very effectively here. This is a great example, though. We are 2 sword upgrades and an arrow upgrade higher than we should be if we're following the game's intended progression. So this is going to give us a couple of opportunities to see how different it is when you have these upgrades. Now, Gold Sword isn't going to give us much of an really much of an advantage over, Tempered Sword at this point in the game. But the Silver Arrows will allow us to finish off the second phase of Argus in 1 hit. It remains to be seen if we're going to try for that, though. It's kind of a hard shot to get. Also in chat, asking about the current PB for Lyra. It's currently 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 23 seconds. Well, we have the Argus fight here, taking advantage of the hook shot to pull off of these puffs, which we need to do in order to do damage to the actual boss himself. Argus here is the original pirate captain, of course. Not the only enemy with eyeballs, though. Plenty of those. And we're just going to opt for sword spins to be safe. Nothing wrong with that strategy. But if you used a silver arrow, it would be a 1-hit kill. It's just kind of hard to line up the shots, so I don't blame Lyra at all for just doing the sword spins. That's how I would do it in that situation as well. So with that, I believe Lyra has all of the dungeons done except for Turtle Rock. So between Turtle Rock and Ganon's Tower, that's for a lot of people around 20 minutes or so. With this equipment, should be very, very attainable. We also still have all of our safeties that we've stored up. So that's 3 fairies and 1 blue potion with which to fall back on. And on top of that, if we end up using any of that, we could refill with potentially 2 whole blue potion purchases now that we have 320 rupees. So Lyra is having a really good run right now. Very capable in this position to get a great personal best here. I'm really excited about this run. And I can hear the chants in chat saying, "Hey, don't do the commentator curse." But it's all about having faith in these people, folks. You just gotta show that you believe. I personally believe a lot in the power of doing that. So I don't want to be the only one cheering her on, though. All of you need to be cheering Lyra on here. Let's see what we got. Also, chat rightly pointing out that, yeah, I mean, at this point, you know, tournament setting, it's very nerve-wracking. I struggled with my races. I don't blame anybody for getting nerves in their races, but Lyra is putting on a good show. I mean, if there's nerves, I'm not seeing it here. You can oftentimes see little things. One of the nice things about A Link to the Past is you can really express yourself with your movement. So, you know, sword slashes, clinking into things, bonks, you know, like Link's positioning, how you move through the world. If you're feeling a certain way, you can oftentimes see it. But, I mean, I don't see that in Lyra's gameplay, though. Lyra has been doing everything very effectively, very efficiently. I would say that some routing choices might reflect a lack of faith in, like, you know, late game stuff, but so far I've had no reason to believe that about Lyra. We've avoided a lot of fairy revivals, so I would think that, you know, pretty soon Lyra should be able to drop a lot of these like extra bottles. I think is probably the biggest time loss. If we could do this with 2 or 3 bottles instead of 4, that would be a significant time save for Lyra. Also, you know, chat asking about, you know, continuing the run. Whether or not you win the race doesn't mean you have to start or stop your run. I mean, every runner is entitled to the opportunity to finish their run. You know, obviously, if we were going into like a 6-hour run or something, we're not going to, you know, bump a bunch of other races off the schedule for it. But yeah, I mean, Lyra, by all means, finish this run. You know, on pace to PB at this point. We're not gonna tell Lyra just because, you know, SNES Chalmers finished that we should end a PB run. And Chad also pointing out that times do matter for seeding, of course. In this situation, Lyra's probably not too worried about that. She does know that, you know, SNES Chalmers did done. So at this point, just, you know, finishing to try to get the best possible race. I'm really impressed by this run. Average time is a relative question. I mean, because the amount of time you spend in this game has a direct impact on, you know, what kind of times you can accomplish. This is a game that you really do have to, you know, really run a lot to get a good time. I would say that on the leaderboard, the average time is somewhere between, you know, 135 and 140. But I think that for someone who is kind of, you know, running this game from time to time, like I am, for example, getting a fast time is a lot more difficult than for the people who have put thousands of hours in this game. So, like, the first 100 people on the leaderboard are around 130 or lower. The next 100 or so are about 130, 135, and pretty much the same rule will follow up until about 145, where times really start to split outwards. That being said, though, you know, the time save that we can get here, if everything goes well, you know, Lyra has multiple minutes she can potentially take off of her PB here. Oh, also, yeah, questions in chat about invincibility frames with the hookshot. The hookshot, when you're in the animation, you can't take any damage. Now, you can take damage as soon as you're done with the animation, so keep that in mind. You know, good to dodge with, but can actually bite you in the back. But so it's very handy. Just one thing you got to avoid is don't clink the hookshot on an object, because if you do so, the animation will end sooner than you expect. Oftentimes getting you hurt. Many times getting you killed, particularly in those roller rooms. So we do see Lyra taking great advantage of the powder here in Turtle Rock. There are tons of anti-fairies to work with here. And so there's no reason not to have, you know, really strong health all the way throughout. We also had a really good chain chomp room, not taking any damage there that would have been too threatening. The 4 hearts that they do every time is something to really keep in mind. And hey, there's that rogue fairy drop. Finally managing to get it. So I guess that probably saves some powder. Not much value at that point, but for a lot of runners who don't pick up powder, that's the only health refill they can count on besides bosses. Sanjian in chat asking about the bunny beams. Those yellow things in the room, when they collide with you, turn you into a bunny temporarily, even if you have the moon pearl. Now you can powder those actually before they start moving, and they'll turn into a fairy. But once they start moving, you can't powder them anymore, so that's an important thing to remember. You'll probably mess that up on accident if you don't know. Ooh, really nice fire rod strat against these pokies. You can do some sword spins, but the RNG that they gave you determines whether or not that's actually, like, you know, doable with one spin. You can react to it, but it's something you gotta practice. Using the fire rod's way more consistent, only costs you one menu. Now you'll notice that Lyra goes this way so we can take the mirror shield. It does not save a lot of time to skip it. You pretty much skip the route outside that we just took. That's about it. Now what it does for you is you no longer have to do the laser bridge skip, which we talked about earlier as being a dash that can get you right behind one of those lasers. Mirror shield's also handy in Ganon's Tower in a couple of different places, particularly against, well, in Lamola's fight, where you have one of those statues shooting fireballs at you constantly. Well, here in the Cana Samaria fire bar room, here's another example of where Lyra may choose to use hookshot to dodge some of these fire bars. We're at full health, so probably not too worried about that. Yeah, chat talking about A Link Between the Worlds, which is interesting because, yeah, the whole Ravio thing really was based on this game's Bunny Link, which is such a funny and a really nice homage to this game. I think that if you guys like Link to the Past, you're going to love A Link Between the Worlds. Highly recommend you play it. And to be honest with you, I'm in the same boat as you. I actually did not realize that. So you saw the door that Lyra just bombed open. We consider that to be a safety door. You could mirror there to pick up some fairies in the Light World Cave. Generally don't see that too often, though, because you have powder for most people have powder at this point. But if Lyra were to somehow take a death in the Trinex room, that's where Lyra would respawn. Because in this game, anytime you take a death in a dungeon, you respawn at the most recent door that you entered the dungeon in. It's useful here. It's also useful in Desert Palace. Although, this is probably the most important use of that particular mechanic. As a death here in Turtle Rock without that safety door is very punishing. All this long hallway here is just going to be crossed with a platform. I'm going to pick up the magic refill after using the platform. Probably not necessary with half magic, but covering all bases. Can't fault Lyra for that. You could also hover that room if you're a madman like Scrivo, but I'm not. Interestingly enough, she's going to go for the right side here for the ice head. The reason why is because the ice head makes the floor icy and makes it very difficult to dodge the center head's attacks. So a safety strat. Don't see it that often, but if you're worried about that ice, which is oftentimes what kills people in this fight, totally sensible to go after the right one first. Having a little difficulty with the ice rod because it's kind of ridiculous to hit that head when it's moving constantly. But does pull it off, just needs one more sword swipe. Ooh. Not a problem though, we have 3 fairies to work with, and as long as we don't run out of magic before destroying that second head, we won't have to use that blue potion either. Ooh, this is tough. Some really difficult positioning, but pulls it off. There we go. Okay, so Lyra has the first phase down, just has to dodge a little bit, and the butter sword, or the gold sword, is going to do a ton of damage to Trinex's last head. We're going to take 3 hits to knock this out. Lyra has to be careful, though, to hit the middle section now that it's managed to circle the room. With that, though, the C4 will detonate on Trinex. We're going to get some big old fancy CG explosions, pick up a heart piece that spawns in the center, the only boss in the game that happens with, because Trinex can actually die out of bounds. So the programmers actually made that heart piece spawn in the center of the room. With that, though, we have Ganon's Tower coming up next, and Lyra has about 15 to 16 minutes to finish that. Ready, folks? I am back. So now we are going to mount our attack on Ganon's Tower. Right now, Lyra, like I mentioned just a moment ago, is got about 15 minutes left to beat the PB. And Ganon's Tower, while it is the most difficult dungeon in the game, we are well equipped to do this. So I'm excited, folks. Cheer Lyra on. It's time to see a really nice PB. I have a really great feeling about this run. So there's a couple different things we can do in Ganon's Tower. We're going to take this key off of this torch because we don't want to have to grab one later. There's also a key under this pot. So we have 2 already. We're going to grab a couple of extras. Interestingly enough, I think Lyra's going to go to the right side, which I don't see too often in the speedrun. But there's no problem with doing it. Both the left and the right side do go to the same place where we need to go to get the big key. So not commonly seen, but this side actually is a little faster if you're looking at them individually. We're going to see some different strats here, though, that you don't normally catch in an NMG speedrun. I'm actually really excited about that. So normally the tile room here would give us a small key from that chest. By taking the left side keys, we're able to go into this room immediately, which is great because tile rooms suck. We're going to clear our path a little bit so that we can hit this fire rod and get through this room real fast. Having a little trouble with the block, but with fire rod, we should be able to get through this puzzle. We're going to swing down there and swing to the right, and if we get through real fast, there we go, Lyra makes it. Going to use some very smart Cane of Samaria strats here to get over the ledge with that. We could also throw a bomb, which is kind of tough to nail every time, but with that, we're going to take this portal. We don't have to check all these chests. This is not randomizer, thankfully, so this is actually a very fast side of the dungeon to take. We're going to grab a key from under this pot because we want as many as we can grab. And with that, we got a really, really annoying falling bridge room. So if all goes well, we should be able to get through this before the bridge starts collapsing. All right, nicely done by Lyra. That's a room that a lot of people don't practice the strats for. So it's kind of strange to, guess as to whether or not that's going to be done, with no issues. And a really nice dash bonk. Oh, with the hard hat beetle giving Lyra a lot of annoying bonks or bumps off the ledge there. That's got to be frustrating. Well, a very wise use of the silver arrows there. We're going to do another dash bonk to get over that gap again. One thing to keep in mind about dashing is that you can change your direction after you start your dash. So what a lot of people will do is they'll start the dash facing away from the wall so they don't grab the wall, and then just change direction to get across the, or to bump into the wall and get across the gap. We're going to see another really nice dash bonk, hopefully. I think Lyra knows about this one. Here with these 2 skull pots here, you're going to pick up the bottom one, and then just dash against the left one there, and boom ski. We skip an entire invisible maze. Now we are relatively low on health, so the anti-fairy that we normally call Bob in the rando community is going to save our skins here. Now, silver arrows make this Armos fight, Armos 2, also known as Armos on Ice, get your tickets now, is going to be really nice with silver arrows. We have ice physics, but we have superior weaponry here, so with our arsenal, we should be able to knock this out, no problems. Very nicely done to get back into the cycle. Got to watch out for some hugs here. But if we get this last arrow, very nicely done. We're going to pick up that big key, but I think the safe thing for Lyra to do here is to not only grab the arrows next to that chest, probably didn't need them though with silvers, but we're also going to grab the red mail. Now, folks, if you're thinking, hey, I don't need all these safeties, think again. I mean, in Ganon's tower and Ganon himself, red mail is invaluable. Green Tunic is just so weak to everything, so this is like a 20-second time loss at most, but this could potentially save you 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how you're fighting and Ganon's tower is. We have a question in chat about our favorite memed anti-fairy, Bob. That's a difficult question to answer. It has something to do with the item logic with the torch. So bonking the big key, or bonking the torch item, for some reason, only in randomizer messes with the sprite. We don't actually have that problem in the vanilla game, the 1.0 release. Bob doesn't even exist, actually, in the NMG game. So you'll notice here that these mimics, they respond to the movement that you make with Link, but when you're in the middle of any kind of animation, they're going to continue to move, even if you, so if you slash your sword and hold left or right, they'll still walk in that direction, even if Link isn't moving in that direction. So we're going to take advantage of that in a couple different places to get those mimics to do what we want them to do, even if we don't want to, say, walk in the path of those spikes. Pretty standard safe strategy through this spike room. Gonna walk our way through, make sure we don't take extra hearts of damage. So we tried to get along the top edge of that that walkway, and the reason why is because it actually makes your movement speed a little faster in that particular instance. There's a way to get a fast dash through that room if you do that. Unfortunately, though, we took damage, so what Lyra decided to do is just jump off the side of the gap, and then you'd have invincibility frames to walk through to sprint through the entire room, no problem. So Ganon Ball Z, that's the backup strategy if you accidentally get hit. In the meantime, though, Lyra is tearing through this gauntlet, not having really any issues. Controlled a little bit by the direction that the enemies move, their RNG, but otherwise has a lot of health to work with, has very great equipment, should get through this without many issues. One of the difficulties of ice movement is that you do have to still dodge some things in this gauntlet, so that's a pain in the neck. Interesting to see that we're going to pick up the powder here. We're going to powder this bunny beam to get a full heal walking into Lamb-Molus. This does actually impact the spawn pattern of the Lamb-Molus. They're going to spawn mostly at the same time. But silver arrows are the supreme weapon in this game. They do 100 damage exactly, which is more than most enemies in the game, with the exception of Vitreous and Ganon. Now, the one thing that stinks about arrows is that you can only have one on screen at a time, so it doesn't help to mash the item button to shoot a bunch of arrows, particularly in the first Lamb-Molus fight. In this situation, we're just shooting a little bit too early, but not a problem. 3 cycles in, Lyra has knocked out Lamb-Molus 2 and is going to head to Gauntlet 2. Still ahead of PB as far as I can tell. We got about 7 minutes left before we cross over that, and this is probably the fastest part of the dungeon, so everything's looking up pretty good so far. We're going to see some really nice use of the Cane of Samaria to get some fast kills on these Wizrobes. Going to have a nice torch room, or 2 of them, ahead. So what a lot of people will do for this room is they will use the lamp or fire rod if you have enough magic. You have half magic in this situation, so it probably makes sense to use fire rod. Either way, though, we're going to get these top 3 torches, and we're going to use Fire Rod to get the bottom one. Okay, nice. So, actually, Lyra did save time there. Probably could have just used Fire Rod for the whole thing, but not a problem. We're through with absolutely no issues. Has a lot of magic to work with for the next room, so we're not going to pick up that full magic refill that was in the first room just south of this one. With half the magic left on half magic, no problems here. She can kill a mini Helmasaur here to get the last key. Although there is a key chest in the room before Moldorm 2 that we could also grab it from. Doesn't matter where we get it. Totally fine either way. I'm hoping that Lyra doesn't pull a me and accidentally grabs an extra key, though, because that'd be embarrassing. Totally never did that in a run. That was a restream. Ooh, and very nicely done to try to get that fairy. We actually already have full fairies, but, you know, smart to try to grab it at that point. Alright, Moldy Worm 2, giving us hopefully no major issues. You'll also notice that Lyra chose to change to the hookshot before going into this fight. The reason why is because while we're going through a C4 animation for these boss deaths, you can't change your menu, like we talked about before. And I get the feeling that Lyra is a fan of the randomizer, because we are disgracing the chest that would normally give us just 20 rupees here in the vanilla speedrun. Yeah, that's right, folks. If you didn't know, the vanilla location there is actually 20 rupees, a big old 20. Alright, well, this is coming down to the wire. About 4 minutes left for Lyra. We want a really nice Aghanim 2 fight here. Cheer her on, chat. Let's show our faith in this run. Ooh, a nice double. Alright, so we got 2-1. Ooh, taking a bit of a hug there on the energy ball. So we have a good chance for a double here, though. Ooh, nice. And that would have been a triple otherwise. But either way, that was a really good reaction to that, that particular RNG. So with a really good Aghanim 2 being a 3-cycle, or was that 4? I miscounted. So we have hopefully a very straightforward Ganon fight here. This is the pivotal moment of this run, folks, so stay tuned. This is about over. The big thing for Lyra here, we have a lot of safeties still in our inventory, so it's just important not to fall. It's okay to take a fairy death, you know, revival, just don't fall off the ledge. Now with Gold Sword, this fight is a lot easier. We only need 6 slashes to advance each phase, so Lyra, before Ganon even finishes throwing his trident, has already done 5 of those slashes. Needs 6 more in this Fire Bath phase. We might not be in a good position to get these slashes, but if we use Hookshot and Vulnerability, we can get a little closer. Either way, it looks to be playing it safe, and I don't blame her. We'll have a second cycle for the second phase, not a problem though. If we get a couple more slashes in here, it won't be an extra one. Now, this is where a lot of that time save comes into effect. With Gold Sword and Silver Arrows, you can get a very fast 4th phase, and that's going to be pivotal to shave some time on this PB. This is really exciting, folks. I'm like at the edge of my seat right now. Yep, so as long as you hit Ganon before he jumps, or before he shoots out his fire bats, he will jump up and destroy part of the ground here. We're going to try to get Torch Glitch, it looks like, with the lamp here. Ooh, gotta be really careful, but Diz does pull it off, so that's really nice to see. Now we only need 4 hits with the Silver Arrows to pull this off. This is really tense. Alright, had a little bit of bad luck there, and stops the Fire Bat from spawning. Let's see, we got arrow number 2. Arrow number 3. And this is it, folks. Arrow number 4, and Lyra pulls it off. Is going to pull off a PB today as well. Possibly has a faster one, but that's the most current PB as of 1 month ago. So, GG to Lyra. I am floored to see that happen today. That's amazing. Well, with that, Lyra, I want to, yep, stop the timer. Good job. I forgot to do that in one of my races. Lost like 5 minutes. But so Lyra will finish with an official speed racing TV time of 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 5 seconds. GG's in chat, GG's all around. That's an amazing thing to see today. So I'm going to see if Lyra is interested in an interview. Give me just a moment for that, folks. Well, that is absolutely exciting, though. I'm just so stoked to see a PB out of this run. So that's two great things to find out today. SNES Chalmers advancing in the tournament. Lyra is going to have a new PB to work with. I know that Lyra's play today shows that we can get even faster times. I mean, that was with, all the safeties that we had in the last run before this. So with the execution I saw today, I wouldn't be surprised to see this cut down a lot closer to 2 hours very soon. Well, I don't have any word on whether or not... actually, I think I might be getting an answer from Lyra here in a moment. Okay, so it'll take just a moment to get Lyra in for the interview, but I believe we will get one. So while we're talking about this run, just a couple things to highlight about the the speed gaming schedule, because I'm sure a lot of you folks are looking to watch more Link to the Past. That'll be the last race for us today on the No Major Glitches tournament. I'm trying to see if we have anything else coming up immediately after this. So as far as Speed Gaming 1 goes, this looks to be the last race of the day for this channel. As far as the NMG and randomizer tournaments go, though, one moment on that. Yeah, so as far as the group stage of No Major Glitches tournament, we have just one more match left. That's going to be Tuesday, based on Eastern Daylight Time, Eastern Daylight Time at 7 p.m. with Giselshaft versus JSR_. I'll be commentating on that one as well. I may actually have another commentator, not sure just yet. As far as randomizer goes, though, I think we have our last race of the week going on right now. Let me check that. Yeah, so the last one should have just finished. So if you folks are in the randomizer tournament looking to try to get your updated seeding for next week, stay tuned for that. As far as that goes, that'll probably be early in the morning or late tonight, because they still have to do a lot of work on Challenge. That page is kind of crazy. But other than that, though, I do want to thank everybody for tuning in, for one. I mean, I greatly appreciate that you folks are, watching this. It's been a pleasure to commentate it for you. I also want to remind you folks, if you loved what you saw today, this is not the last that you're going to see from these runners. These runners have a lot more in them, whether they're in the tournament, watching the sidelines like me, or just simply playing the game for fun. So please follow these runners, Lyra and SNES Chalmers _. These folks have put on a fantastic show for you today, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to, help put them on the platform. Yeah, so chat pointing out that for the Rando tournament, there's just one match left on Challenge. They're probably finishing it up right now. It was a really late in the week match, but they'll be posting the updated matchups, probably early in the morning. Give them some time. The administrators for these tournaments, shout outs, by the way, to the administrators for this tournament and, of course, for the randomizer tournament. You guys have so much to do. I don't know how you guys do it. I'm glad I can help out in any way I can. Well, it looks like we are joined by Lyra. Lyra, GG, and is that a PB I saw? Hey, Lyra, are you there?
Greetings.
I'm pretty sure that was a PB, is that right?
If it was, it would have been like a couple minutes, yeah.
Yes! We were all really excited to see that. So, I mean, thank you so much for putting on this run for us.
To be 100% honest with you, I was told it was going to be close, so that's how I fought like it, but it wasn't even close at all.
Oh, you meant with the race between you and Sness Chalmers?
That's what I was told at the beginning, or excuse me, the end of last round's interview.
Oh. Well, I mean, either way, though, I mean, you put it all out on the floor there today. I mean, with everything that, you did in this run, there were a lot of extra safeties that were taken just in case. I'm wondering, I mean, did you feel like you weren't going to have as good of a run as you did?
I'm kind of used to routing those in to begin with, so they're not real huge time sinks for me to just run out and grab.
Yeah, it makes sense. I absolutely thought you did a fantastic job with this run, though. I mean, for what you did pick up, you went through these dungeons very well. You didn't have a lot of deaths. Certainly a lot better than I was, when I was at the same time. So I get the feeling that you have a lot of really nice PBs coming up.
I actually appreciate that. To me, the run just felt like the run of my life. I don't know if I can perform too much more like that, but hey, it was worth going out on a good note like that.
Well, certainly not going out completely, though. I mean, you might be joining me on the sidelines to watch the tournament, but I get the feeling that, just like myself, you're probably going to put a lot more work into this game. It is really exciting to see that run, though, because there were some really tough boss fights that you made it through, with minimal issues. Your cold stare was really good. It was great to see, for example, things that, runners like you and I who are a little newer to the game, or you're not new to the game, but I mean, who are doing strats that are a little safer. It gave me an opportunity to explain that for folks who want to get into this game. So I think that, the run that you put on today was really helpful for showing people like, hey, you don't have to be going for the most ridiculous, like, I'm never going to pick up powder kind of strats. It's still possible to get a really attainable great time.
Honestly, to everybody out there that's new to trying to run or being interested in this particular category or anything like that, do yourself a favor, don't pick up too many categories at once. I was at 3, I dropped to 2 between this and randomizer. I dropped key sanity for the simple fact when you do too many categories, you overthink yourself and you will end up getting frustrated and it will hurt you and you will eventually maybe even quit, and we don't want that here. So yeah.
I mean, of course, there is the chance that you'll accidentally open chests that you don't want to. I've done that a lot myself, so I can speak to that. The randomizer crossover can be kind of weird.
I'm guilty of a couple of those, but not too many of them this run. I noticed I only opened like maybe 3 or 4 out of the sequence mostly.
Which is actually a lot better than, because for people who are only speedrunning the NMG game, like, it seems crazy to pick up anything on extra, but then, you go back to randomizer trying to win your race for the week, and you're skipping chests on accident, so, I can hardly relate to that. Are you in the rando tournament, by the way?
Yes, I am. I'm 1-1 currently.
Better than me. I'm 0-2, so hey, I'm really excited to see that as well. Hopefully I'll get to commentate some of your matches. You can, of course, request your commentator.
I will be more than happy to put you in for that.
Wink, wink. No, I'm just trumpeting my own horn, though. But, I mean, do you have any thoughts about this run as far as, like, what your best, feat was in this run? Because, I mean, you did mention it was pretty much the run of the life.
It was the run of my life. There was only a couple things I really stumbled on, and I almost ran out of arrows on Armos the first time I noticed. I flew through Landmos too with spin strats, and that was really exciting because not many people will actually do those. Moldworm was great.
Yeah, you didn't have any falls on Moldworm. That was really nice.
Yeah, like considering the first run of this tournament, I actually fell like 5 times. Yeah, it was actually really satisfying to not fall at all.
Definitely one of the splits early in the game that, kills runs regularly for most people.
Oh, totally. Let's see. Bulbasaur King was a little bit weird. I got like the perfect bounce right into his tail, and I was kind of laughing at that on the side.
Did you just call him Bulbasaur King?
I've always called him that.
I cannot unsee that now. Oh boy.
You're welcome.
Well, so like I said before earlier in the chat, you play this game every single day, you will learn something, and that is another thing I will not be able to unlearn either.
So rest of the bosses all went pretty well. Vitreous is always annoying without silvers though, but hey, just keep at it. I know I go a little bit crazy and I just kind of spam sword on that, but there's better strats for that out there. The
Hey.
route I took is pretty solid, and I actually would recommend doing that as a first-time thing.
Yeah, I mean, without all these boss deaths, you did really well throughout this run. I mean, that's the big thing that loses people time too, and I think that's something to really highlight. It is so much better to take any number of safeties than to take a death late in a dungeon. And even the fairy revival animation, it doesn't take that long. So, I mean, I 100% agree with the route that you took with this run. And it shows. This says on the left side of your screen, times played, 0. There were no deaths. So, I mean, it speaks to that.
Yeah, I think the fairy death animation is maybe like 6 seconds. It's something pretty small. It's always worth that over, going all the way back, because during one of my more recent tournament runs, since I've been in both tournaments, I died to Trinex, and I don't think I fell like back to the second or the very first safety door, but I think I fell back to the second. And it's little things like that will just add up on you quickly.
Yeah, and some of those are extremely punishing deaths, so that's always good to not have happen. Well, so, I mean, we know that we have the randomizer tournament still, and we're in Swiss brackets for another, 5 weeks. But as far as NMG goes, I mean, I think you've had this category you've been doing it on and off for, what, a couple of years now? I think your bio said?
Let's see. I first joined Speed Demo Archives back in like the late part of last decade, so I was running that and Earthbound and a couple other games back then. So it's been more than 10 years of running it, but I've played this since '91, so it's always been a childhood favorite of mine.
I love that so much because since I was 4, I picked it up with the controller. It's the first game I ever played, so I'm very happy to hear that. Good to see some OG ALTTP runners. And I'm hoping that, you continue with this category because it looks really exciting, what kind of PBs you could have ahead.
I actually have a run coming up at my local convention next month, but beyond that, yeah, I've absolutely would love to stick with it because it's the most fun you can have out of Zelda without going into the crazy stuff.
And definitely helps to do the bird toss as well, so I also want to salute you for that. Totally not going to save anybody time, but you made the fans happy with that one.
That's kind of what I was hoping for. And then who can ever forget the wonderful validation chest at the end?
Yeah, divided opinion depending on who you're talking to on that one. I thought it was funny, but it's nice that you got that in a PB run as well.
I always leave a couple presents on top of that box. I almost never go for it.
That's a savvy decision. I'm just going to give myself some free time saved for later.
Well, you're spending more time dropping blocks and bombs on top of it than you are opening it, but it's for the fans. That's all I care about.
Well, I'm pretty sure I can, speak for everybody present here today. It was a privilege and an honor, to watch this. You get your PB. I mean, this was a really exciting race for both runners. I think I've pretty much said everything I can about the race itself. I want to give you just a moment to have a platform for the audience. Anything you'd like to say to your fans?
I know I've been speedrunning a little bit less lately. I've been picking up a couple other projects, but it's something I look forward to seeing you all with like every single day that I can. I really appreciate all of you even staying up this late for me because it's currently 22:42 here and it's even later for a lot of other people.
Well, I'm a night owl myself, so I don't mind it. But these runners definitely, or these viewers have tuned in because you guys put on a great show. So if you guys liked what you saw, please, by all means, show them your love. Plenty more of great speedrunning from both of our runners. I just posted a link in the chat for them. Please send them a follow. And of course, if you want to catch all of this tournament, you're going to have to catch it here on Speed Gaming 1 through 6. We're going to be present on all of those channels. And of course, the randomizer tournament, since both Lyra and I are in this tournament, you can find that in ALTTP randomizer 1 through 4, as well as the rest of these Speed Gaming channels. With that, though, I think I'm going to close this out. And I think that should pretty much cover everything. We should be done for the night on all of our other races. You will catch more action going into the week. Lyra, thanks again for the race, and from everybody here at Speed Gaming, and thank you to everybody in the back doing all this other stuff in the background. Thank you, volunteers. But from everyone here at Speed Gaming and from the tournament, see you guys next mission.
Thank you very much. Have a great one, everybody.